Dre, you ready? Welcome to the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your hostess with the mostest. My name is Michael Marcanio. I'm here with your boy T. I'm here with Anthony Ravelis, and I'm here with Andre Navarro.
Yo.
And we are AVG Fantasy Football. Today we're continuing our division breakdowns. We did NFC East. We did NFC West. What comes next? Of course, NFC North. That's what comes next, baby.
Yeah, baby.
So we're talking about Green Bay Packers. We're talking about Chicago Bears. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings. We're talking about Lions. Did I say that?
Yeah, you did. I mean, I think you did.
Maybe.
I just stopped
Rawr.
listening.
Anyways, but before we get into this division of the NFC North, I'm going to let you know that we would really appreciate if you could leave us a review and rating on the Apple Podcast app. If you get any type of information from this podcast and it helps you out for your fantasy football squad, just go ahead and leave us 5 stars. Just write a review. It doesn't have to be long. You just scroll all the way down the bottom. It just helps boost our podcast when you do that. And if you're kind of like more of a visual learner, we actually have full video format. When we do these podcasts, I actually play highlights throughout the video. So you can kind of watch who we're talking about. We put up templates, so it's very easy to navigate through the episode. That being said, if you want easy navigation through the episode, go into the description. Check out the table of contents I always put there, and then you can go and be like, oh, when are they going to talk about David Montgomery? Oh, it's right here. It's at this minute, at this second. Okay? So it just makes it a little easier on you. You know what I mean? Not everybody has hours of time to listen to a whole entire podcast. I don't. You know?
Wait, so you're saying that if I want to, I can just scroll through and find a certain player I want to listen to?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, are we still muted?
No, you're not still muted.
I don't believe you.
You're on. But yeah, and while you're at it, go ahead, follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We can reach out to us, and we'll give you any type of information you need directly to you. Just give us a DM, shoot us a DM, any questions you have, and we'll get right back to you as soon as we can. We're a little bit quicker on Instagram, but you can hit us up on Twitter as well. All those links are in the description down below. So now, let's get into it, baby. We're doing NFC North. We're going to start with the Lions. Word.
I just saw a funny thing on Matthew Stafford. He threw the ball 727 times in 2012 and only 20 touchdowns. I'm like, that's like impossible. He threw 19 touchdowns and 291 attempts last year. It's like 1/3 of the attempts.
Who were the receivers back then?
Calvin Johnson.
There's no way he had Calvin Johnson throwing the ball 700 times.
I don't know. Maybe it was the year. Maybe it was the year that Calvin Johnson got tackled the one like 7 times.
Oh, remember that year?
Yeah, Calvin's been there.
He was there in 2012
for sure.
Maybe he got hurt that year.
You know what? We'll get to the bottom of this.
That's insane.
He still had 4,900 yards. So he threw 100 yards, just 20 touchdowns. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting stat. Hashtag
Mark
it down.
Dude, Calvin Johnson's only 34. He should literally still be playing. Anyways, that's
yeah. So Matthew Stafford only played 8 games last year, but through weeks 1 through 9, the only games he played, he was actually QB6. And if you would have took his 16-game pace, he was on pace to throw for pretty much 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. So that would be pretty nice numbers for a quarterback you're drafting in these later rounds. He's got a 10th round ADP right now. I think we can all agree on this. I think we all like Matthew Stafford this year, especially for being one of the later round quarterbacks.
Yeah, I especially felt better after talking to Dr. Cucci, our in-house
resident doctor.
Coochie doctor.
Once the medicine man, also known as Dr. Cucci, let us know about the back injury, I felt a little bit more comfortable grabbing Matthew Stafford. But yeah, you can grab him and another quarterback. We talked about some yesterday or last recording.
His ADP is in the 10th round right now.
See, that's one of those ADPs though where it says 10th round, but I think it's later in real drafts.
Yeah.
Like even the mocks we've done, and we're like, well, we're kind of a late. I think everyone we mock with is kind of a late quarterback. I think it's more like 13th, 14th.
Yeah, I would probably say 12th. 12th was the round I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Especially because like he did get hurt last year, so people might be sleeping on him, but they don't realize like he was on pace for 5,000 yards,
Yeah.
and he was QB6 during that 8 games he did actually play. So yeah, I don't think the average people or the normal people are really paying attention to that. So yeah, I definitely think you can grab him super late. That's why we preach on wait on a quarterback.
Yeah, and I know they drafted. I don't want to go into the running back position, but they did draft another running back. But to me, it's the Lions has just been one of those teams where it's like they've just struggled to run the ball year after year after year. I don't think they have a top 12 rushing offense in something stupid. It's like 10 years.
Yeah, I think it was what was it? Kerryon Johnson finally had a 100-yard rushing game. Was his rookie year,
last
right?
year,
And they
right?
made a big deal about it. And it's like, bro, you just had 100 yards.
They
rushing.
started burning
It's
down buildings, blowing up cars.
Reggie Bush ran for like 1,000. That was like the last time, probably.
I don't even know if he got to 1,000. He's probably close. But yeah, anyways, I think this is going to be more of the pass-heavy style of offense again. You could kind of peg Stafford for 550 to 600 pass attempts, 600. I think he might even push 600 again, which he was paced for, because I don't see the Lions being – sorry, Lions fans, don't come at us. I don't see him being I don't see the Lions being like a 10-6 type of team. I see them more on the losing side of the record or losing record. So I think he has to throw more often than not. So, and with the weapons he has that can just make explosive plays, and Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones is still there. T.J. Hockenson. Who else did they had in the
Amendola.
Amendola is a nice little slot guy right
They actually
there.
signed Geronimo Allison as well from the Packers.
Yeah.
So just another receiver
another guy.
that's capable. We've seen
Yeah.
him be capable of going out there and making plays.
Yeah, I love Matt Stafford. The more we talk about these breakdowns again to his quarterbacks, I'm like, I'm not touching a quarterback till after the 10th round.
Yeah, it's tough. Even if
It's just so many values.
Yeah,
I
you
think.
have the Mahomes, the Lamar Jacksons, the Kyler Murrays, but it's like when you see a guy like Stafford, you're telling me I get a guy who could throw for 5,000 yards, 30+ touchdowns, and I can get him in the 10th round or later.
Yeah.
It's just why would I risk passing up on a top tier skill player?
Yeah. And in some of those home drafts, like where it's just kind of people just kind of, not really doing research, not listening to AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. They're just being real, bro.
Yeah,
I'm laying shit out today. All right, worked all day. I'm fucking straightforward.
Mrs. 645 is here.
645 is here. I think he's someone you can get very, very late because, like you said, he was hurt. It's almost been the year before he was, 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns. So it's been almost 3 years since he's had a full season of production. So I think in these home leagues where you're playing with just your average people, you're going to get him extremely late.
Yeah.
Solid value. And the floor, if he plays 16, is safe week to week.
Yeah. So just something I saw. I'm not sure how accurate it was. I just saw it on Instagram, so I took a screenshot of it. But it said he's 31 now, and quarterbacks through the age of being 31, he's first in attempts, first in completions, second in yards, and third in touchdowns in NFL history for quarterbacks being 31 years old. So those are pretty good numbers. And I think people forget that he was the number 1 overall pick back in the day. But yeah, I think we're all, like I said, I think we all agree we're all in on Matthew Stafford this year.
Probably one of the bigger safe values when it comes to late round quarterbacks. Some of these guys could boom or bust. We talk about the Daniel Jones of the last episode, or the Jared Goffs could be boom or bust. I think as far as the late round, when you want to pair him with someone else, he's one of those safer guys in the late rounds.
Yeah. Dre?
I agree. You guys pretty much said it all.
I agree.
So send it in, no flub.
The only good stat I had was the one that T-Rev said,
my
but
bad.
I'm here to give you guys a Kevin Johnson stat.
Is that why you're laughing?
That's what yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
Jay was cracking up or something.
Hey, so that year that he had 20 touchdowns, Kevin Johnson finished as a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. He had not 300 points. He had 122 catches for 1,964 yards and 5 touchdowns.
So I think it was the year where he got
insane.
tackled at the 1 lane.
Yeah, so he got 25% of 20 touchdowns. Good for him. But the year before he had 310 fantasy points, which is fucking
That's
absurd.
the record, right?
Yeah,
1,900 yards
yeah.
for Calvin
Yeah.
Johnson that one year?
Julio got close 1 year, right?
Yeah. He had like
Dude,
1867 or something like that.
The year before he had 1,600 yards and 16 touchdowns.
Man, that guy was a savage.
And 96 catches.
It was a blast having him that year. It was like you're watching your stat sheet and you're just like Calvin Johnson.
If you had him in Dynasty, oh my God.
It just sucks. The Lions arguably could have had.
Him
You
and
could
Golladay.
argue that Calvin Johnson, if he would have played until now, because you see these receivers are playing,
He'd still be-
arguably they could have had the greatest wide receiver in Calvin Johnson and the greatest
Of all
running
time.
back in Barry Sanders, but they just still want to play for the Lions.
But
the Lions won't let them go or cut them or trade them, so they're just like, all right, well, I would rather retire than continue to play for you.
Damn,
so you're saying Matt Stafford's going to retire because he could be the #1 leader in all these stats, and he's like, you know what, fuck the Lions, bro.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. All right, that's all I had for Stafford.
Yeah, send it in. No flub. What we got next, Mike? Move it.
Moving into the running backs, we got Kerryon Johnson.
All right.
It's kind of I'm kind of mad
R.I.P.
about I don't know.
R.I.P. to that knee.
It's hard to get excited about a Lions running back, and as soon as you do, they go and draft another running back. So I don't know how you guys feel about Kerryon Johnson. I'm a little bit upset about it, but
I mean, I wasn't going to be too big on him prior to the draft because he didn't look the same last year before the knee injury. I mean, he wasn't as explosive. He just it looked like he lost a step. He almost Sony Michel'd it, where he just didn't look like the same player from the knee injury. And he had knee injuries prior to college, and now he had another knee injury. So when you got knees on knees, yeah, not for me's.
Yeah, and he had a shoulder injury too. So
it's going to be a timeshare. I think if anyone's going to be the one to take the job, it's going to be DeAndre Swift. But this is kind of a timeshare I don't really want to mess with. The Lions generally don't rush for a lot of rushing touchdowns. Like I said, they're not a top 12 rushing team. So what am I going to get? A bunch of yardage from running backs and then hope that I have the right one that's going to score a touchdown? I'm probably staying off of both of them. And then even with DeAndre Swift, you're going to have to hope that Kerryon goes down because he's not going to be.
He will.
He's just, which he probably will.
He will.
He will.
But and he could be some one of those second half running backs where we see that, it's like the week 8 we're talking next year from week 9 on, DeAndre Swift was the RB 14 in PPR. So I just don't think I'm going to waste a pick in the top 8 rounds to start the season. He's someone I might target in a trade or try and move for the second half. But that's my opinion on the running backs. I'm staying away.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, after his injury, he really didn't look the same. I mean, you can tell he lost a step. I just went to go look to make sure. He went from an impressive 5.4 yards as a rookie to 3.7. So, I mean, that's like 1.5 yards and some. So, and now you got a guy who's a lot more explosive, and Kerryon's going to be 24. So, I'm good. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, one thing I saw with Kerryon, so he missed 6 games in 2018. Obviously, he missed 8 games in 2019. And then I saw 13 of his 18 games, he's been held to under 60 yards rushing. So it's like, that's just not – there's like no upside, It's like even if, those couple games that he has, put up some points for you, it's like if he's not falling in the end zone, he's not getting you those rushing yardage that you want. Obviously you want players who are going to get you yardage and receptions and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's just gross. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, as Estanti would say, gross. But, probably on my do not draft list, Kerryon Johnson. I'll take a shot on DeAndre Swift because I'm going to bank on Kerryon Johnson just not staying healthy and getting hurt. I mean, he has the last 2 years. I know in college he was pretty banged up. So, obviously, the Lions personally think themselves like, hey, we need to address the running back position. If they were confident in Kerryon Johnson, you don't go out and get a guy like DeAndre Swift. And, I think eventually when push comes to shove, even if Kerryon Johnson's healthy, I think that DeAndre Swift can take over that role. It might take a while with no preseason, no rookie camps, like we keep saying. But
swiftly. Yeah,
but I think eventually, at the end of the day, Matt Patricia's on the hot seat. So if he wants to keep his job, he's going to, DeAndre Swift's going out there and, he's getting 10 for 60, and then you throw Kerryon Johnson out there and he's getting 10 for 35. I think, then he's going to be like, okay, I got to put the best playmaker in here because my job's on the line. I'm about to get fired. Mid-season, he could potentially get fired. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, but, Kerryon was the best runner for his rookie season. He wasn't giving him the lion's share. He was putting, I think it was like
the lion's share.
The lion's share. Yeah, I mean, it was just real quick. I mean, I don't need to touch any more points, but DeAndre Swift, I mean, you're looking at him in the range of Devin Singletary. I'm taking Devin Singletary every time over DeAndre Swift. Even Cam Akers right there. You have, I'll just touch on some of the other running backs. Kareem Hunt. That's kind of the only, it's pretty much receiver heavy in that area. But he would be right after Le'Veon Bell as well. Raheem Mostert. I'm taking those guys ahead of DeAndre Swift. So I'm probably not touching him as an AP.
What about for Dynasty, Dre? What do you think,
that's
like,
different.
Dynasty-wise? Like,
DeAndre Swift?
Yeah. Like, where are you gauging him? Like, your Dynasty top 3 pick locked in?
Oh, man, what's crazy is before he went to the Lions, he was, like, almost locked in for, like, a top 3. But he ended up – I actually passed on him, and I'm literally reading on it. It was tough. He went 5 in our league. After Akers, CEH, Taylor, and Dobbins. But, I mean, his talent is he's probably the most talented out of all of them. But I mean, the landing spot is what I think killed him. But yeah, he doesn't have much tread on his tires. He's been behind Elijah Holyfield. He played when Nick Chubb was there as a freshman. So he's been playing consistently. He's seen the field, but he hasn't played a lot, so that's good. And he's 21. I think he's a true 3-down back. As long as the Lions' curse doesn't continue, I think he could be a beast.
There is a curse.
I mean, it hurts. I really did want to get him because when you watch his film, his one step or like when he plants that foot, it's over.
He reminds me of Kamara, like
Dude,
his elusiveness in a sense, at least, like how elusive he could be. Like you said, one cut and go, and his ability to keep his speed. Sometimes you see these players like they'll cut, but they lose a little speed as they're cutting, or they're changing directions. Like his stop and go was just it was unmatched. So I definitely like him. I think in dynasty wise, I would say he's still at least top 3 to me because Kerryon Johnson's like he can't stay healthy. He's only tied there for 2 more years on his contract. I mean, for all you know, maybe they cut him, they just get rid of him. So next year potentially it could be the DeAndre Swift show. And if you're in a keeper league like us, like we all do, you keep a player in that pick. I mean, if you're drafting DeAndre Swift in the 6th, 7th round or whatever it may be, that could be a guy who's next year going in like the top 3 rounds potentially.
Dude.
So
yeah, for sure.
Could be a whole new coaching staff in a good way.
Yeah.
Next year.
Well, and then here's an interesting stat. So they said over his 2 years where he basically split time in 2018 with Elijah Holyfield. So he had a year and a half of like playing really. He ran for 2,267 yards on 359 carries, which is 6.3 yards a carry, 17 rushing touchdowns. He also had 513 receiving yards on 56 catches for 4 more touchdowns. And his last 2 games of college, he only had 3 carries for 15 yards because he didn't even play.
yeah, so he's a savage.
He's a beast.
He's swift.
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy, man. And he's got a dope running back name. DeAndre Swift is just like a dope running back name.
That really is.
I'm big on like names like. I remember Patrick Willis. I was like, that's a dope name. Like, there's just certain players. Like, what's his name? Patrick McQueen for the Ravens. Like, that's a sick name.
Yeah. Nick Chubb.
There's just like certain players that have cool names.
That's solid fantasy advice. Draft them because of their name.
I'm just saying, like
Mo Alley Cox, tight end 1.
No, hey. I know y'all remember Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The law firm.
The law firm.
All right, well, let's move on to the receivers
bullshit,
on the lines. We got Marvin Jones up first. How do you guys feel?
I think he's just. I feel like you could just copy and paste what we said last year, and
except for one. This has nothing to do with football.
You don't like his name?
My man Marvin Jones. Hey, listen, he can sing. Ready? Where's the camera? He can sing. Go, bro. This dude, and I guess he's like half Mexican. This fool be singing in Spanish. I had no idea. Hey, I followed him on Instagram because he can sing, not because he's good at football. I was like, this nigga can blow.
Hey, we should do a fantasy podcast with you just speaking Spanish.
Bro, I'm just yeah. I mean, that'd be cool, but I need one of you guys to come and kind of jump on.
Is there a lot of Hispanics that listen or play fantasy football that don't speak English?
There's a lot of Hispanics in America.
I mean, they play fantasy football, I'm sure, but
football.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a market for that. That's
Marvin Jones. I looked up. I wanted to make sure. He's a free agent after this year.
He's an UFA.
Yeah. So I mean, that's going to be big time. Whether it's redraft or dynasty, he balled he went from the Bengals, right?
Bengals.
Right. So I read he brought in these rookies to work out with him. He's probably trying to see his competition. Like, all right, let's see who's like trying to take my job type shit, right? But I did read, this one was pretty interesting. So he was rated the 4th best receiver in this stat alone. So before let me put a comma. He had a 57.7, expected catch rate. Jesus.
Get over there, drink that fucking cola.
Yo, could someone karate chop Dre's throat?
No, right? Do it. Damn. So
is that your like bluff? So every time I know you're like bluffing and poking out, you're I'm all in.
I usually call the all-ins and lose. I don't go all in. Anyway, so he had a 57.7 expected catch rate. He actually had caught 68.1%, which was an 11% gap. That was 4th best in the NFL. But what I thought made it more impressive, I even literally wrote impressive in capital letters. He had a tight window throw percentage of 29%, which was 2nd in the NFL. So the throws he was getting were all in close quarters, and he overexceeded his expectations to catch those balls. And he's not like a big body guy. You know what I mean? He's not like a super physical freak. He just goes up and gets it. I mean, he had 9 touchdowns last year, 62 catches. I mean, he's more of a standard league guy. He's like a top 30 dude. I mean, he can easily sneak in and be top 30 this year, being the number 2 on that team. He's going to get about 100 targets. Stafford's going to sling that thing. So, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, he finished 28 in PPR, 27.5 point PPR. Finished with 92 targets in 13 games. I mean, if he finishes in the top 30 half games with Stafford, majority of the games not with Stafford.
David Blah.
If we're so high on Stafford, it's kind of hard for me. Like, he's like boomer bust to me. Kind of some games he disappears, but then he'll get you those monster games where he gets you 2+ touchdowns. That one game he had 4 touchdowns. I remember.
That was nice.
He had like 40 points. Yeah. So it's like he's kind of boomer bust, but I mean, that's what you're getting for a late round pick. But I feel like if we're so high on Stafford, Golladay can only do so much, and Galladay's not a heavy target guy. We'll touch on him in a second. So you got to assume that if we're, pegging Stafford to get 4,500 plus yards, then Marvin Jones is 1,000, at least 1,000, right?
Marvin Jones is a solid. This is just a rough projection. You're gonna get about 65 catches to 70, roughly 950 to 1050 in the yardage department. He could push 1,100, if it's a good year. And you're gonna get anywhere from 6 to probably 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And that's gonna finish in the top 32. He's gonna be at least a wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
And he's gonna get drafted like a wide receiver 4 or 5.
Yeah, he's going super late.
I mean, I am a little bit bigger. I know Anthony's not too big on the contracts, but I am a little bigger on, your contract year. Hey, I'm trying to get paid, especially if some of him, like, he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulder. Like, he knows he's been in the league for a while. He's got a second contract from the Bengals to the Lions. So I don't think he's on the Lions next year. I think, he's pretty much auditioning for another team because they're going to have to pay Kenny Golladay $15+ million after this year, I think. And then, you have a couple of the receivers. Maybe they draft someone. I can't imagine a scenario where they pay Golladay and him, $10+ million or whatever it could be potentially. He'd have to take a pay cut. He might actually get better offers from other teams. So I think he is auditioning in a sense to be paid for another team. So yeah, I do like Marvin Jones, late round guy.
Yeah,
solid value.
Yeah, one more quick stat that I'm a big. I mean, just targets. He only had one game last year of under 5 targets.
Yeah,
that's good.
Jesus, Anthony, that's it. One game. That's it.
All right, let's go. I don't know why I have TJ Hockenson in here.
You forgot Golladay or what?
Oh, I don't know.
You went past him. You skipped him. That's why I was Marvin Jones is first.
Dude, you're going to
my
skip
bad.
my guy. That was my man crush, too.
My bad, dog. My bad.
Man.
I was like, I swear I put him in there.
Okay, talk about guys I already have in my dynasty.
So we got Kenny Golladay.
So Kenny Golladay, he's in a contract year, and like I just said, I feel like this guy's about to get paid. I mean, last year, 11 touchdowns, led the NFL. He's not a big target guy. I mean, some people I read something today. It was on Fantasy Pros talking about like he's one of the riskiest players to draft because his targets are high, and they were saying how he's never. I think it was over 120. They're he's never had over 120 targets, and it's like, okay, but he's one of those rare players where he doesn't need 120 plus targets because his touchdown upside is through the roof. His big play potential is through the roof. I mean, and we saw, like I said, half the games with Stafford, he was balling, but then the other 8 games, playing with David Blair and I don't even know who the other guy, O'Driscoll, he was still putting up some decent points over there, obviously to make him finish as the wide receiver 9 PPR, wide receiver 6 in half-point PPR. He was even better in standard.
Yeah, he was 5?
Y'all good there,
I would say he was 5.
Yeah, so I do like Kenny Golladay. He's one of my favorite wide receivers this year. I think his ADP's in like the 3rd round, but I wouldn't mind grabbing him in like that back half of the 2nd round. Like, like how Anthony says sometimes you got to reach. Sometimes you got to reach a little bit just to get that player. I mean, if you're telling me I got a potential guy who's going to be a top 10 wide receiver, I would assume 2nd round grade on him, right?
You're thinking like maybe you grab him and he's like your 3rd wide receiver.
Yeah.
No.
See, this is why
not this guy. Not this guy.
This is
my one. This is my number 1 receiver right here.
Yeah, you're getting him as your 1.
Just kidding.
It depends.
I'm just kidding.
It depends. You can watch our draft strategy episode next and see
how we do that. Just a point on your like little point where it's like this is probably the same guys who copy and paste the fucking rankings every year where it's like, oh, he's never had. It's like there was the same argument for Drew Brees has never targeted a receiver more than 130 times. Well, yeah, he's also never had fucking Michael Thomas
for sure.
So it's like there's Kenny Golladay is a prime talent. So
He's
it's
an
like
outlier.
Yeah, he's kind of an outlier. So it's like, am I projecting 150 targets? No, but I see him going up into the 130, 140 range. You know, Matthew Stafford, when he was there was one game where he had 2 targets, but outside of that, it was only one game lower than 8 targets, and that was 7. So he's pretty much consistently 7 or above targets, and you could say 8, 9, 10. So, I mean, if he stays in that 7 to 10 range, he's going to be 150. Even, I mean, that's actually like a close to 160 target guy. So like I said, I think there's some growth there. I'm not just going to say, well, he never did this, so he can't do it. Fucking idiots.
Yeah, I was reading it, and I was kind of just like.
No, I'm not saying to you. I'm saying to the way they like.
You did. No, I'm saying I was reading the guy on Fantasy Pros, his little article, and I was thinking like, this guy. He sounds like an idiot. Yeah. He sounds like an idiot.
That's what you hit that so fucking dumb.
He's getting paid for this.
So fucking stupid.
Yeah, but at least he.
Yeah.
I'm muted. Mike's muted me.
Damn.
I slid it down.
Dude, I'm muted, dude.
The intro kept playing, so I slid it down and I went to slide it back up.
And Kenny G, as I like to bring up, who could lead the league in X amount of category. Kenny G is one of the guys who could lead the league in touchdowns.
Yeah.
Would it surprise you?
Last year,
yeah. Did he lead last year?
Yeah.
It was him and or he tied with someone else, right? Or was he
one? He had 11 touchdowns, led the NFL.
Yeah, so he can do it again.
Touchdowns.
And it would surprise me if that went up with the full year of Stafford.
Have y'all listened to Kenny G's music too? The singer, it's fucking
I mean, they
beautiful.
call him Babytron for a reason, and that's the last thing I'll say on him. But Dre, what do you got on him?
I'll start with the nevers first, since it's like an easy segue. It's like right here.
Never have I ever.
So he's never had a catch rate over 58%, which I mean, so if he gets 100 and however many targets, that should should be good. And you already said he's never had 70 catches or 120 targets. But what he has done, so he led the NFL with 11 touchdown catches. He was 29th in the NFL in receptions. So to be number 1 in touchdowns and 29th in catches is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Not only that, he was 4th in the NFL in tight window receptions, not percentage, but just tight window catches, trailing your boy Davante Parker at 1, Michael Thomas, and then Allen Robinson. He led the NFL in contested catch yardage, 429 yards, and he led the NFL with 37 deep targets. So that's when you think of that, you would think of like, you know, the speedster guys. This fool 6'4", 230, and he had 37 deep targets. Like I said, led the NFL. He was 3rd in the NFL with 18.3 yards per reception, which is also really good. And it's like I said, he's a big boy, so you think he's more of a red zone guy, but
big boy.
Big boy.
He stretches the field. He was 2nd in the NFL behind Deshaun Jackson, and he had 2 40-plus yard touchdowns. So I mean, he does it all over the field. I mean, he had Stafford, like we said, for 8 games. I mean, there's not much to not like. He ran a route on 88.6% of the plays when he was on the field, which was 12th in the NFL. So I mean.
He's good.
He's gonna get
draft
guapped
Kenny
out.
Golladay.
Draft Kenny Golladay. Yeah.
He's getting guapped out. I mean,
he's about to get paid. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
After this year, I think he's about to get paid.
Yeah.
He's about to get money.
He's gonna be up in there in that Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas area where he's making.
Yeah, for sure.
He could be making 18+ million per year.
And if
maybe
you think about it,
20.
Stafford was
Could
hurt
be,
really,
yeah, for sure, 100%.
Was hurt the year before.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's always the next man up who gets the next contract. So
100%.
I mean,
yeah, so he's been hurt really for 2 years. He had like that hurt back, but he still played, and then he got surgery. So this is like the healthiest Stafford's been in like three years.
Well, so we've all figured out that Kenny Golladay is good. I'm curious, do you guys think that T.J. Hockenson will be good in 2020?
I'll go first. This one's funny. So he balled.
one game.
Well, yeah. So that's the only stat I have.
I was so close to Pixar. I picked him up in one league, and I was like, dude, did I just trade the shit out of him right now? Because I was like, his value might never be higher.
Traded him for sure.
I messed up. I didn't do it.
So for his first week, those however many yards he had, which was like 130.
131.
That was
in a tug.
That was 35.6% of his yards for the whole season was in the first week. 35.6%. That's literally all I'm going to say.
Was he injured at all?
Well, he did get hurt, but he had a game where he had 6 catches for 18 yards. like week 16. Like it was.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of different tight ends that we like.
Yeah.
He's
and
good though.
Probably stay away from T.J. Hockenson.
I had him in my top 12 originally. I moved him down. He's like more like 15. He's 16 for me. I had him.
He's a good blocker.
I think I was just like, I didn't dig deep on some of the deeper tight ends, and now I've moved some of the guys up a lot more. He's outside my top 12 easily.
He's like a poor man's Kittle to me because he is a really good blocker. He's not as good a receiver as Fant, but he's a better blocker than he is. So, and tight ends, it's tough, to get.
I just think with tight ends, I'd rather grab like you're saying, like a Noah Fant or for you know what I'm saying.
Yes, someone who could be the 2 or potentially 3 in their team. Like you get into the what can't I think of redhead Falcons.
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst. He could potentially be the 3 in that offense. Mike Gesicki could be the 2 or 3. Jonnu Smith. These guys could be 2. But
Kelsey's a 2.
Him, it's like he's not going to beat out Kenny Golladay. He's not going to beat out Marvin Jones. I mean, Danny Amendola might even out-target him, and he's going to have the running 90
backs.
targets.
I was going to say 90, 96.
Where is he going to be? The 4, maybe in the 5 in some games? That's where you're going to see those 1-target, 3-target games. So to me, I think the future is potentially bright, but this year I'm off.
Yeah. Do not draft list. Yeah. Next. Lions defense. All right, we're not good.
Not good.
Don't go Lions defense. Unless maybe they're playing the Bears. We're going into the Green Bay Packers. Dude, can I just say the chant that the Packers have, "Go Pack Go," is probably the lamest shit I've ever heard.
It's pretty whack.
Go Pack Go.
I feel like they're offending Cheese, so they might have to stop that. So who knows?
I don't know. I just think it's whack. I heard my friend who's a Packers fan say that to he saw someone who also was a Packers fan at the bar, and he was like, "Hey, go Pack Go," right? And I just was like, "No, get away from me, dude. I don't want to be at this bar."
Oh, and the steel curtain's good.
Better for sure. Much better.
That's gonna be shit.
And it has ties to war.
As I'm always telling you, I'm about to put hella money on the Steelers this year to win the Super Bowl.
Steelers is good.
Steel curtain, baby.
Okay, but so we can talk Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, we were all surprised this year. We did a live draft companion. We watched the draft, so we have live reaction of them drafting Jordan Love. Do you guys think that he gets put on the bench halfway through the season, or do you think it's kind of like a similar? No. Okay. I don't think. I was just curious. What?
I was doing my reaction. I was
like, yeah.
So Rodgers, he finished as QB9 last year. Even when we did our early rankings, I think we all had Rodgers a little bit low. We were kind of getting some shade from some people. They were kind of like, "Oh, Rodgers, why is he so low? I can't believe that." So I was thinking, like, all right, are we being a little hard on Rodgers? Because, I do like Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan personally.
You go in on the good
of Aaron Rodgers. But he finished as QB1 back in 2016. That was his only top 5 finish in the last 5 years. Granted, he did get hurt 1 year, but even then, only one top 5 finish minus the injury year in 4 of the last 5 years. So I think it's, us ranking him outside of the top 5 is granted. I mean, it's not the same Aaron Rodgers as it was back in the day. He doesn't have Jordy Nelson and Davante Adams. He doesn't have Randall Cobb in his prime and Jordy Nelson in a sense. In Davante Adams, at one point he had all 3 of those guys.
Cheeseburger Eddie.
So,
well, and you have these rushing quarterbacks now, that the Kyler Murrays that have came in, and Dak's jumped up there. These guys who rush.
Yeah,
the ball,
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, yeah. These guys, Watts. I mean, it's hard to put him in the top 7.
Yeah. And then just a crazy stat I saw, too, that it was kind of weird because you think of Aaron Rodgers, gunslinger throwing the ball. But he's only had over 4,500 yards once in his entire career, which I thought that was kind of wild because, we just touched on just a name that jumped to my head was Jared Goff. We said Jared Goff. He's had 4,600 yards back-to-back seasons. So you're thinking, like, oh, Jared Goff's done it. But if you're asked someone who's better, Jared Goff or Rodgers, it's Rodgers all day. But to think that Rodgers is only top 4,500 yards once, that stat kind of just blew me away right there.
I think Rodgers gets his legacy a lot from just coming back and winning games.
He's a name.
Remember that.
He's a name.
Most people are names.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
I'm kidding.
He's a name.
Being a smartest.
He's
43% of his games are outside the top 12. So, like I said, when you were taking him last year in the top probably 6 or 7 picks, maybe even 5, 43% of your games outside the top 12. That's not what you want. This is going to be a run-heavy offense. They definitely went out and drafted more receivers so they don't run the ball as much this year. Oh, no, they did the opposite of that. So it's – I actually think they're going to be more run-heavy this year than they were even last year. And it's, looking at some of his finishes last year, 24, 19, 25, 22, 22, 23, 20. You're losing those weeks.
Yeah.
100%. Now, he did have a couple top 3 weeks in there, so you might have been able to win those weeks. But, when your quarterback's putting outside the top 20 on 6 of 7 games or right there, it's just, I can't even scroll over.
Well, and the problem is
just not nice.
When you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, you just feel obligated to start him. like week after week.
Yeah.
Even when they're playing good defenses, you just like you're saying with that name value, you do feel obligated to play him. So
yeah, and to me, he just didn't look the same last year. I don't know if it's just like feel like I've kind of watched Aaron Rodgers. Like he's been on TV a lot. It's like I feel like he's lost a little bit.
I mean, obviously the Packers agree because they go out and they draft a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
So for them to do that, they have to be seeing something too. So I mean, you're not the only one who's thinking that.
Thank you, Packers.
You guys want to move on to the running back situation because this got a little cloudy with the.
What, Dre? You got anything to say on Rodgers?
I mean, you know what? No, fuck that. I don't want to talk about it.
Sorry.
Sorry. Not sorry.
No. I just had bad news for Aaron Rodgers. It's all good.
What, say it?
No, it's all bad.
No, I don't want it.
I think the point we're trying to make here is that he does have the name. And I think Aaron Rodgers, in terms of talent, is obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a future Hall of Famer. But this is fantasy football. All right, this is not real football. I don't care about the Hall of Fame right now. I care about what are you going to do for me right now in my fantasy football team. I'm trying to win that trophy. I'm trying to get the bragging rights. They're trying to get the money, whatever it is. So he has that name value. He's getting drafted, like Anthony said. He's going to go in like the top 5 rounds because it's Aaron Rodgers. You know, someone's going to be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is still there, especially if it goes on a quarterback run. You know, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks go. Someone's going to be like, oh, let me get Aaron Rodgers. He's still on the board. But it's like we're trying to preach that don't get Aaron Rodgers. You can wait on guys. There's guys like Matthew Stafford. There's guys like, Matt Ryan that we'll touch on later. There's guys like Carson Wentz we touched on the last division. You can grab these quarterbacks in these late rounds and matchup base them. 2 quarterbacks and just play the matchup so you don't have to reach for an Aaron Rodgers. So what is it about Aaron Rodgers that you don't like?
I was literally going to say all those things.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I had it written down. He read the script. It doesn't matter. I have this one thing that you sent me. We talked about it. 33 QBs have thrown at least 500 passes since the start of 2018, and Aaron Rodgers ranks 26th in completion percentage, 21st in touchdown percentage, 20th in yards per attempt, 14th in passer rating, 11th in, I don't know what the fuck that is, but he's 11th, AY/A, I don't even know what that is. But he's first in interception percentage. That's the only thing. He really doesn't turn it over.
He really doesn't turn it over.
Even when in his prime, he was, he had like 3 picks in a season, like 5 picks in a season. So, I mean, because one of my boys in my other league, he's like, Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, he's a name now. He's middle of the road. I could think of 10 guys I'd rather have. And, I mean, these stats are kind of scary. 26th in completion percentage. There's been some shitty quarterbacks that have played in the last few years. So,
yeah,
he's 26th. That's bottom 4th.
So would you consider him like a bust then? Would you put him like in a bust list, being drafted in potentially the top 5 rounds?
He's still outside my top 12.
He's one of those guys I just won't draft now. Like before, he's like someone if they're there. Like now, just like we said, there's guys that can run the ball now. I'd rather have other dudes.
Yeah.
Pass.
Pass. Pause.
All right.
Pass.
Let's move on to the running back situation, which got just like they drafted a quarterback in the first round. They ended up drafting a running back, which we were just because they had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. It was kind of unexpected. We were thinking they were going to go for a receiver, but they didn't. They went running back. So what do you guys think about Aaron Jones? Does that kill his value? Are you staying away from him? I was going to stay away from Aaron Jones before the draft. Now, especially probably.
He's
Regression. Yeah, I saw he had I had to do some numbers on my calculator again today.
Did your calculator tell you the truth?
It fucking popped up some good ass numbers.
Oh, dude, man.
He averaged the touchdown every 15 touches, which was insane.
It's pretty crazy.
He had 19 total touchdowns, same as McCaffrey. McCaffrey had 403 touches. Aaron Jones had 285. So he scored the same amount of touchdowns in 118 less touches.
That's crazy.
I actually wrote down, hell nah, blood. Right here. Because he's not doing
in
that.
all bold letters.
No, hell nah, blood. I actually put blood. But I did do that.
David Blood?
David Blood. He had 68 catches or targets. I don't think you'll see that next year. I mean, with a reliable number 2. I just think all the way.
Who's that?
Aaron Jones. Oh, I'm just saying. Well, Alan Lazard.
Too.
Well, I mean, Lazard came around, which I'll bring up. Actually, he doesn't have a nameplate. He was number 4 against man coverage last year in the whole NFL. So he can get open man one-on-one coverage, and when you're the number 2 receiver, he showed that he can do it on the back end of the season. So with that, and you have multiple running backs, I just don't see him getting 68 targets either. So I think the numbers will go down, but 19 touchdowns is a lot. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a big Aaron Jones guy. I mean, I'm not discrediting his talent. Obviously, the guy's talented, But I think finishes the RB2 in half point and full point PPR. But like you just said, the McCaffrey, 19 touchdowns for him, but 400 touches, only 285. 285 touches. In the same amount of touchdowns. So that's crazy. One thing I just saw about Aaron Jones is I feel like he is getting drafted inside the top 10. People are kind of thinking about last year, obviously, and what he did. But, I mean, he was 10th in touches, like you said, 15th in rush attempts, and 11th in targets. And he wasn't even like the bell cow of the team, only 62% of the running back touches. And for them to go out and get a running back, that just doesn't boast well for him. You know what I'm saying? Sure. I'm not I know A.J. Dillon was one of your rookies that you didn't like. And maybe he's not that good, but he's a big boy.
He's going to take up some space, literally.
I do think that they will bring him in on certain goal line situations, so some of those touchdowns will come down. I also do think that Aaron Jones, me personally, I think that he got 19 touchdowns because Davante Adams was hurt.
100%.
Only 6 touchdowns for Davante Adams this last year. A guy who normally gets 10 plus, 12, 13 touchdowns every single year. So yeah, I think he's going to be one of those guys who gets drafted pretty high. But, I mean, me personally, I'd rather take a guy like Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, even a Kenyon Drake. I'll take him over him, especially when Aaron Jones kind of has that injury risk to him. 2 of the 3 years, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. So, for me personally, like I said, I'd rather take one of those running backs, a mix in a Josh Jacobs, a Miles Sanders.
Yeah, he's
Chubb.
Yeah. He's kind of falling behind those guys slowly but surely with the actual ADP. I look through it a pretty unbiased lens, majority of the time.
It's the worst play in the world. Oh my God.
As he runs.
I lost to R by 0.7 because of this play right there. Get the fuck out of here.
We're watching YouTube highlights if you guys can't see, if you're just listening to the audio.
I'm hurt.
But you know what? He's always been a touchdown monster. Whether you want to say he's going to score 16 touchdowns or not, I obviously don't think so as well. But, I mean, he's been he's been a very, very productive red zone back over his career. It's not just 1 year, it's when he's on the field. So you do have to kind of take into, because I'm trying to appropriately evaluate him. Like, how many carries is he going to get? I still think he goes above 200.
Yeah,
I still think
220.
I mean, that's only 15 less than last year.
Yeah.
I mean, and he does have massive red zone upside. LaFleur is one of those coaches that might just be stubborn in the red zone and make them run the ball again. And it wouldn't surprise me if he actually got over 12 again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So that's why I'm trying to appropriately value him without just saying, oh, he's going to do for regression. There's this and that. I'm trying to give the most appropriate evaluation of where he's going to fall because he is coming for regression, but how far down is it going? I still think he gets about 40, 50 receptions in total. An explosive player. Like Tyler said to the point, I'm taking those guys with Kenyon Drake's, Miles Sanders over there. But if he falls into like the CH
area
realm, that's where I'm not going to fault you for taking him because he could have another 10 plus touchdown season. And he's going to still get 200 plus carries. He's going to probably get 40 receptions as well. So, just trying to point out like where to appropriate value him. Like Tyler said, I'm not taking him over Miles Sanders, all these other guys, but if he falls into the range of the CEH, maybe Austin. I'm not that big on Austin Eckler personally. I would take him over Austin Eckler, but there's just like if he falls into that range, I think that's a range where I'm okay with if you want to go ahead and grab him.
Do you think he falls in that range though? Because I feel like what he did last year, I think people are going to jump on it.
In some leagues, yes. In other leagues, no.
Yeah.
And I think when you come to like more of a league where people have a little bit of knowledge, I think he's going to fall later. When I think you're just looking at the people who played last year and Aaron Jones was number 3 last year. They're gonna go ahead and take him there. So I think it's going to be very league dependent.
What you think, Mike? What do you got? What do you think?
No, I was just going to say I would say our summary of Aaron Jones is basically where he falls. I think we all think that he's good and he has potential, but he's just not worth that as your number 1 running back. Almost.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you got lucky for what he did last year.
Right.
You didn't draft him to be the
100%.
number 2 running back in last year.
Close.
You drafted him as your RB2 most likely, and he just happened to boom.
I mean, I know personally I mentioned he had top 5 upside in his realm of possibilities.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It was
and it showed, obviously,
Yeah.
for sure. I do think that Davante Adams being hurt was a big part of it because I still think this offense runs through Davante Adams. We'll touch on him next. And I think once Davante Adams went down, obviously the lack of weapons, Jimmy Graham was non-existent. The receivers were non-existent. It went from Davante Adams to then Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
So.
No, it definitely made a difference. And I'll bring this up in case you didn't hear in the last podcast. I think he's someone I'm targeting in Dynasty Like I said, still 25 years old.
Contract year. So if he's not here, like you said, next year he could go somewhere.
Yeah. And he's at PFF. He literally is like a top 3 running back every year graded. I know granted there's been the injury and the substance abuse or whatever, but if he falls into a situation where he's a workhorse, he's going to be a monster.
Let's just hypothetical. Let's just say he ends up in the Patriots with Cam. That'd be.
Yeah, dude.
Because I don't think they have Sonny Michel for this year, but that's just.
No, yeah. That'd be he'd be a monster.
Oh, yeah, the Patriots. Yeah, I was thinking Panthers. I was like, wait, I'm tripping. Yeah, no, like we said, the Packers haven't re-signed a running back since James Starks or given a second contract. Yeah. I don't think he does a Kamara regression from 18 to 6 like Kamara did. Because, that's 2 years ago. That's how he did last year, only at 6. But I think I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, 12. 19's a lot. I would give him 8. It's still straight.
And you can get another 1 or 2 on the receiving. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm just saying like total. Yeah, he's still. It's just tough to not go down from 19. If he does that again,
only Gurley can do it.
Yeah, dude. Like, he didn't give himself much wiggle room for or wiggle room period. So it's.
Yeah.
All right,
we can go on to AJ Dillon. I know we just touched on the running back side. Are you going to draft AJ Dillon? No. Yeah, I know we didn't really like his game type. I'm just curious what you guys think.
I feel like the Packers might try to use him in the goal line. Maybe. He is a big boy. He looks like he could do it. I don't know what the coaches think. I'm just a Mexican man.
Not redraft. How about Dynasty? How do you feel about AJ Dillon? Yes, no, maybe so.
He's a second round pick still. He went mid-second. And he would still go mid-second. I would still take like.
But like you're saying, if they're not going to re-sign Aaron Jones, then you would think going forward.
Yeah.
Or Jamal, then you would think going forward, then this is their guy, obviously. They're drafting for the future, obviously, with Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon. So, dynasty-wise, I think,
even if he's not that good, he could David Montgomery, where he gets 200 and – we're talking dynasty. He gets 240 carries.
Touchdown upside.
Touchdown. Probably more touchdowns. He's probably better in the red zone than David Montgomery, I'm assuming, because he's bigger, but he does go down very easily. But
David Montgomery breaks he jukes a tackle machine, too.
He's
broken tackle machine.
He struggles in their goal line.
So possible upside.
One thing I can say with this is I was looking at LaFleur's system, and like I just touched on, Aaron Jones only 62% of the running back touches. Obviously for RB1, you see guys like McCaffrey or Saquon, even Dalvin Cook. These guys are getting a majority of the, I would say 80+%. Don't quote me on that, but I would say 80+% of the touches. Jamal Williams got 38%. So I read something today saying that AJ Dillon is going to take over as the backup for Aaron Jones, but he doesn't really catch the ball. Jamal Williams does. So now I'm just a little concerned. Now, where does that extra 38% come from? Because it's like a 60-40 split almost here, even if it's a 70-30 split. So does A.J. Dillon get some type of run? Do they just phase out Jamal Williams completely? And then a stat, I was trying to find it on my phone. I had it. I must have deleted it. But talking about LaFleur's system, how back when he had Derrick Henry and Deion Williams, he would pretty much Deion Lewis, he would split the carries,
combined.
So obviously this year, we kind of saw no LaFleur there, and Derrick Henry just took the reins and just blew up. That's why he led the league in rushing. So I'm just kind of curious to see how LaFleur splits up this backfield. Is it going to be 3? Is it going to be 2? Does he just feed Aaron Jones? So this is a little tricky backfield for me.
And we'll move right on right after this. But we always bring up the point: contract years, they could run him into the ground potentially and have that. So
100%.
That's there. That's there. He does actually still have top 3 upside again.
Yeah.
So it's in there. I don't think it's gonna. It's probably a small percentage, but it's still there.
No, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
And Mike, to answer your question from the dynasty question you asked me earlier, he's still going mid-second because the wide receiver value. The career expectancy is still longer. So you still have guys like Michael Pittman Jr., Jalen Reagor, T. Higgins, Denzel Mims. I would have those guys in Dynasty over A.J. Dillon. And that's where they're going. That's like in the realm that he's at. He's like right before the Antonio Gibsons, which I'd rather have Antonio Gibson, but that's where he's at as far as Dynasty. He's like a 2.5, 2.6.
Gotcha.
He's still a top 20 rookie, but like I said, it's a preference. I would rather have Antonio Gibson than A.J. Dillon.
Got you.
Yeah. So for the Dynasty people.
All right,
Dynasty peeps. All right, let's go on to Davante Adams. Tyler's saying that Davante Adams, he believes the offense is going to run through him. What are you guys' thoughts?
I have Davante Adams as my number 1 receiver. So
yeah, I think so too. I think most of us do.
Who wants to go first?
So, I mean, I want to put Davante Adams as the one because I'm a Davante Adams fan.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite players. Just quick numbers on him. Obviously, he speaks for himself. It's fucking Davante Adams. And he is tied to Aaron Rodgers, still slinging the rock to him. But 169 targets in 2018. Only 127 last year, but he only played 12 games. But he was on pace for 169 again. Did I say 116? I mean 169. I can't remember.
You're good.
Anyways,
I heard
169.
69. I got
Yeah, 169. So I'm pegging him again for 169 just to keep that pace going. And if you're going to get me 160 plus targets, yeah, that's at least top 2 wide receiver right there. So
yeah, I have at 1. I mean, I had Michael Thomas at 1 for the preseason rankings because it's like you almost had to. But I mean, outside of Michael Thomas, the receiver position alone only had about 80 targets as a whole. Yeah. Emmanuel Sanders is going to come in and see some targets
for sure.
So I mean, and
my man crush Manny.
Yeah, your man crush Manny, and then the other receivers are still going to get some targets as well. So I said I have him, right where you said, right around 170 targets. To me, his touchdown upside is higher than Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas hasn't approached Devontae Thomas. Now they have become one. If I can get Devontae Thomas, I'll take him number 1 overall.
Like what I'm a deuce at.
He hasn't approached the touchdown upside that we've seen with Davante Adams. So to me, he's my 1. That's why I probably won't be taking Michael Thomas at 4 or 5. If I'm in that spot, I'll probably take a running back and then take a receiver next round.
Perfect segue because Davante Adams, before he got hurt last year, had 3 straight 10 touchdown or more seasons. So not only was he getting the targets, he was getting the touchdowns. And I also looked up. I know it's what have you done for me lately, but he's been a model of consistency. He's averaged 134 targets over the last 4 seasons, and that's still with 7 games missed. He still averages 134 targets a season, which is fucking impressive. He only had 1 game last year under 6 targets, so his ceiling or his target floor is good. And he's had 17 red zone catches last year, which was 3rd in the NFL, and he sat out for 4 games. So he's just all over the field, whether it's red zone or between the 20s. I mean, he's good end zone to end zone. He gets the job done. I mean, you can tell.
He's
targets, catches, yards.
He's a savage.
Yeah, he's a savage. You guys.
Yeah, 10 touchdowns, 3
You guys know what to do with it. You guys know what to do with Davante Adams.
Grab him.
Yeah,
he's fucking drafted.
Yeah, he's.
All right. Well,
Don't play yourself.
You might know what to do with Davante Adams, but you might not know what to do with the new ad, Devin Funchess.
Go ahead, T.
So I threw Funchess in here just because I do think whoever the second receiver is in this Packers offense is going to hold some type of value. Maybe it might not be week to week, but matchups or whatever it may be. Whether it's Funchess, whether it's Lazard. I mean, we thought it was going to be MVS last year. I saw him getting drafted a couple drafts. Obviously, he couldn't do it. It's kind of a speedster. Kumar, whatever his name is, he's
Kumaro,
Kumaro. He's nothing else. So
Kumaro.
They lose
like
Geronimo Allison. So what I just thought was interesting here is you have Geronimo Allison, who we were kind of big on last year. And in those games with Aaron Rodgers, he would put up some decent numbers. They lose him. He goes to the Lions. He only signs for $1 million. So it wasn't like it was took much to keep him on the Packers. You'd think you'd want to keep a guy. He already knows the system. He's already acclimated to it. Rodgers is comfortable with him. Only $1 million to keep the guy. They cut ties with him and they pay. It's only $2.5 million, but still, it's an extra $1.5 million to go out and get Devin Funchess. I think people are sleeping on Funchess. This is just my personal opinion because, obviously last year goes to the Colts, gets hurt in the first game, breaks his collarbone, doesn't really produce anything. So I think people are sleeping on him. But the Packers see something for them to cut ties with Geronimo Allison, and pay double for Devin Funchess. Still a big body guy. And just one thing I saw with Funchess here, in his only season where he had 100 or more targets, this is back in 2017. He had 100 or more targets. That's the only year he's ever had 100 or more targets. He finished as a top 25 wide receiver in PPR and half-point PPR. 840 yards, 63 receptions, 8 touchdowns. So he's a big boy.
Oh, you big boy.
And it's not like you have a guy out there who's slinging the rock left and right. I mean, Cam Newton obviously is, pretty good player. But Cam Newton that year only threw for 3,300 yards, only 22 touchdowns at a 59% completion percentage. I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers can do that and then some. So I just think if it's Lazard or if it's Funchess, whoever that number 2 is out there, obviously they do run some 3 wide receiver sets in LaFleur's offense. But I think Funchess is a guy who I'm going to be taking a lot of shots on. And it's a lottery pick. He's a guy who's going late, double-digit rounds, 10th, 12th round plus. But could it pan out? He could be a solid player for me. So I'm going to be taking a lot of shots on Funchess.
Gonna take
Zing.
shots off of Devin Funchess.
Yeah, dude, body shots, dude.
Yeah, so do you guys play in that game we played?
All right. Anything you guys want to touch on Devin Funchess? How do you guys feel?
I mean, just
I did the Lazard thing. I'm more of a Lazard guy, but that's why we're here.
yeah, I'll probably take the shot on Lazard. At least there's a little bit of unknown. I feel
They're the same size too, 6'5".
I'm not really excited for
Is it 500 pounds?
Funchess, to be
So what
honest.
is it about Lazard that intrigues you? So what you're saying then is you're interested in the number 2 in the offense?
Yeah,
No,
I mean, I read
I'm
Lazard.
not, personally.
Aaron Rodgers recently referred to Lazard as an ascending player. I mean, you know how he doesn't really he's very they use the word fickle. I guess that's a word you can use, but he's very picky on who he passes the ball to. But I mean, over his last 11 games, he averaged 3.2 catches, 44 receiving yards. I mean, that's for a rookie who's never played. I mean, that's to earn Aaron Rodgers' trust as a rookie is impressive. But I like just his height. He's 6'5". Big boy, and like I said, he was number 4. He got the number 4 grade in the NFL versus man coverage, and that's all the NFL. So as a rookie to get that, I think is impressive. And not only that, for being that big, to be able to get open versus man, I think is impressive. So I mean, it's not anything crazy. Lazard's a deep dart throw, but just someone to keep an eye out on. I mean, someone needs a number 2, or Aaron Rodgers needs a number 2, just like Breeze does.
I mean, this is why I'm not interested in the number 2 at all. Everybody
Well,
touched
he's
on. I
never
think
had
it's going to be
one,
a rushing heavy offense.
Yeah.
Not one for the 4 games Davante Adams missed 1, 2, 3, 4. Not one receiver went over 7 targets.
Yeah, they didn't
only
have
had-
anybody. Yeah,
It was basically an average of like 4, 3, 2. I mean, you go into these even when Davante Adams is back 4, 2, 2, 2, 6, 3, 1, 2, 2, 4. I mean, I'm not saying numbers that I want as a number 2. I'm hands off on him.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a rookie. Just someone to keep an eye on.
But can I
He's never
say this,
played in
that
the NFL.
it's got to speak volume to me, at least, that for them to, you're saying, when those receivers aren't getting targets, obviously they're not very good. So for them to not go to address the wide receiver
must
position in the
like them
draft,
enough.
but they go address it in free agency. He's the only free agent they bring in. They lose Geronimo Allison. They're okay with cutting ties with him. Like I said, he's been with the team for a couple of years. You don't think that speaks volume to what they're looking for?
I mean,
in a sense,
he's
like, well, let's go get him. And then also, let's say Rodgers throws for 450 times. I think that's low, right? 450 times.
I'll throw him a little more than that, but yeah.
No, that's just at a minimum.
All right,
minimum.
yeah,
Oh,
minimum.
minimum, sorry,
minimum,
yeah.
So let's say those are 450 times, right? Davante Adams gets 150 of them. All right, obviously this is low. I'm lowballing it, right?
Yeah.
That's still 300 pass attempts open
For
up
sure.
for grabs.
And you
So-
should get out. I mean,
and I would think that
get 100.
I think Funchess takes over the number 2. I think he's better than Lazard. I think he's better than Kumaro and all those other guys in MVS. I think he is the locked and loaded number 2, and he's one of my favorite deep like sleeper guys you get in these late rounds. I think he gets over 100 targets, and like I said, if he gets over 100 targets, he's going to get you maybe not top 25 like he did that year because there's more talent in the NFL now. There's the rookies and all these players that come in the league now, but I think he's going to be a serviceable player that you can have.
I will say
Be bet on Devin Funchess?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
they signed
with
him.
Tyler. I'm with Tyler on
Beer
Devin
bet.
Funchess just because
Oh.
I've owned those second wide receivers,
beer
and
bet.
there's a lot of times where Aaron Rodgers throws like a perfect pass and they're drop balls. It's not, you know what I mean? So I think obviously there might be less targets, but I'm not going to target a player who's going to be dropping the ball constantly. You know what I mean? So I think that I will say that I think they're grabbing Devin Funchess as okay, well these number 2s didn't really work out when Davante Adams went down. Let's go outsource and let's try and get somebody else. So they went and grabbed Devin Funchess and they're going to try it out. It doesn't mean necessarily it's going to work, but I would agree with Tyler that it's a bump up from the previous wide receiver 2s they try to make work there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
they
it'll be
paid him
interesting.
$2.5 million, so
For
they
1
didn't
year.
they didn't give him shit. Let's be honest.
That's a prove it.
And
It's
the
a
only
prove it
time he
deal.
actually
No,
did
yeah.
something is when he was.
he's on a prove it deal for sure.
The only to me, I don't think he's an prove it. That's why I'll take.
I
the
literally
bet.
wrote it right there.
No, I'm saying that's what they're giving him. It's a prove it deal.
No, I
That's a
know,
1
yeah.
year. Yeah, he's
I
gotta
mean,
prove
the
himself.
only reason he did something in Carolina is because there was literally no one else besides him when he was there.
Yeah.
It was just he had to do something.
Yeah,
and he was only able to make 63 receptions for not only, I mean, it's still okay, but he was literally the only receiver there. The year after nothing.
Yeah,
Indianapolis cut
McCaffrey, who
him.
was the number 1 there, because McCaffrey had 113 targets, and he was kind of the main guy there. Like I said, but
I don't know if he was there that year.
Yeah, he was
Was
there.
he?
I looked
Okay.
into it. Yeah, and like I said, Cam that year only threw for 3,300 yards, which isn't much. So he
Yeah.
still had 25% of the yardage for the offense. So if and I'm not saying he's going to be like a superstar stud, how it was with Jordy Nelson and Davante Adams. I'm not even saying he's going to be a Randall Cobb, but I'm
just
saying
saying-
could he be a top 40 wide receiver? Could he be a serviceable flex guy? Or if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, I think 100%. Yeah, because I think Rodgers needs that extra guy. Davante Adams can only do so much. Will he see 170 targets? Yeah, probably. Davante Adams will see 170 targets. But could Funchess push 100 targets? I think so. And if you're going to get 100 targets from Aaron Rodgers, sign me up all day. 100 targets from Aaron Rodgers is better than 100 targets from 90% of the other quarterbacks in the league.
Do you want to put
even
it
if
at
it's
100?
70.
Oh, I would do it.
I'll do a beer bet that he'll get 100 targets.
I was going to beer bet that Lazard has more fantasy points than him.
Oh, I'll beer bet that too.
Yeah.
Double beer bet.
Yeah,
Put
that-
it in.
Double beer bet.
Just because Lazard's already in the offense. Funchess has to learn it, and Funchess is just not athletic to me. Like Lazard and Kumaro. Kumaro's 6'4" also. Those two dudes are way more athletic and faster. They're the same height, and they're bigger and faster than him.
They're not faster. Funchess runs a 4.4.
Devin Funchess is slow.
Devin Funchess ran a 4.4. I'm just saying what
in college,
Google
maybe.
told me. He ran a 4.4.
Yeah, that fool's slow as balls.
Lazard ran a 4.5 or 4.6 actually, and then Kumaro's white. No offense, Mike.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's just like a big guy.
He's not faster than
You're
Devin
white,
Funchess.
He has the shortest legs there.
Yeah,
so,
Devin Funchess is like. Didn't he just have ankle surgery too? Didn't he like break his ankle?
He broke his collarbone.
Or that fool's
That's what it was.
Which is not connected to his legs.
Not
But
big.
I mean, I guess I'm.
Funchess, deep sleeper. Clip that shit.
To Tyler's point, like I said, because I'll play both sides of the fence. His upside could be 100 targets if he is the true two. And you're spending like nothing on him.
4.7. I'll give that.
Yeah, so you're spending nothing on him. So he's basically a free pick. If Tyler's right, hey, it's you're happy you get a player. If we're right, you fucking cut him. You're not wasting anything.
Low risk, high reward.
Yeah.
So
right?
what's a beer bet?
Although,
You could do your 100. I don't care. I just think Lazard's going to be better.
I'll
than
do
Funchess.
both.
I'll do
both
80
beer bets.
Yeah. 80 what?
receptions.
For
No,
who?
I said-
Not
damn,
receptions. Excuse me.
son.
Targets.
You're fucking
Targets.
tripping.
Damn,
Targets.
yeah, this guy's-
Targets.
Yeah, I was like, you're.
All right, I'll take 80 targets.
I was like, I'll take your bet, Mike. That's an easy
yeah,
money.
I'll take anything above 60.
I don't know, bro. I'm just going with my gut on this one. But
All right.
All right. So tight end, you got Jake Stumero or whatever.
Jake
his name is.
Butt?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, tight end, there's nobody. Oh, Jay Sternberger.
Sternberger.
I mean, 100 targets to the tight end position last year. If that position sees around that realm, I'm not interested.
I'm not interested.
It's just tough for.
I was
for
like
a-
trying to make a case, and I was
yes.
like, nah, I'm not interested.
Second year tight end with a shortened season with no camp.
Yeah.
I just don't even worry about the Packers tight end. Just
Yeah.
pretend they don't have one.
I mean,
Packers-
he's had talented tight ends. Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham, and Martellus Bennett, and none of those guys have been top 10 tight ends, I think, with him. Or,
They're close, maybe.
Jermichael
yeah.
Finley was
So-
the best one for sure.
Yeah, so it just, whatever it was, I know Anthony's touched on it. He just doesn't seem to, the tight end is just not, he just doesn't look for the tight end. I think it's because Aaron Rodgers goes for his one or two read. The tight end is not, the first or the second read in the play. So,
Yeah. All right.
I do like the Packers defense,
I
though.
was like, it's a decent defense.
I do like Packers defense.
I would see who their early season schedule is, and that might be a defense I target if they play some. Because they're a pretty good defense, and if they play some like crappy teams to start the year, it might be a defense to go up and pick.
I'm gonna wait. They lost their quarterback of the defense, Blake Martinez. They didn't re-sign him, who was like their guy.
Doesn't
So-
sound good.
Yeah, I mean, he led the team in tackles. He was their middle linebacker, but they're not big on re-signing guys like that. So he went elsewhere. So I want to see how he controls them.
I'm not drafting them. They got Vikings, Saints, and Bucks to start.
So
the
I
year.
mean, yeah, I'm just gonna wait because he did a lot for that team, Blake Martinez. People have to understand middle linebackers are the quarterbacks of the defense,
they're
unless you have like those safeties that are like fucking your Ed Reeds and your
Your
guys
Minka
like that.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, your guys that can command it. So yeah, I want to see how they do this upcoming season.
and they're in the middle of all the lines, so it makes sense.
Yeah, they're about to get.
All right, what do we got next, Michael?
We are moving on to the next team. We're going into the Minnesota
I'm done.
Kirk Cousins,
Los Primos.
Minnesota Vikings.
Kirk Primo.
Yeah, purple team.
Oh man.
I don't know. I was trying to think of something creative to
No, that's
speak on that,
cousins in
but
Spanish.
Cousins, Primos, cousins.
no,
Primos
I
is-
understand that.
Oh, you know
do
Spanish?
you? Now you know
Oh,
Spanish?
you fucking live in
I,
Arizona.
oh
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I
Alright,
did
alright.
play soccer and lived in Arizona.
that's
Oh,
fucking
yeah,
racist.
'cause-
It's so fucking.
How's that
racist?
racist?
Whatever, dude.
Dude, just play soccer. You
fucking kidding me?
Primos?
Football.
Kirk Cousins, to me, just a streamer quarterback. I'm not touching him in the draft. I'd rather take the shot on this. I'm gonna be very quick. You guys might be able to agree.
I literally have it right here. Weekly streamer.
Yeah, I'm gonna take
yeah.
the shot on the upside guys, the Minshews, the Jones, all the pretty much the. I'll take Tua first.
Yeah, if
He's not even starting.
yeah, if Stefanski were there, I would go more in depth because Stefanski makes QBs a lot better, which is what he did with Keenum and Kirk Primo. But
Kirk Benimo.
He's now with the Browns, going to make Baker better. So we'll see. They're going to run that double tight, but yeah.
All right, streamer.
Stream it.
All right, let's go.
All right, we can move on to
what
the
do we
running backs.
What do we got in the kitchen next?
We got Dalvin Cook cooking it
cooking.
up. We talked about, if you guys want an in-depth analysis of Dalvin Cook's injuries, we did a little injury breakdown with Dr. Cucci on a previous episode. You can look on our YouTube, go through the clips and watch that there. But yeah, how do you guys feel on Dalvin Cook?
He still hasn't technically reported. I mean, I haven't seen anything. He hasn't reported or
He's trying to get paid. I don't think he's reported yet. No.
Yeah, he's trying to get paid.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of like shit with people talking. I don't know the whole CBA, all that, where it's like it's almost like he'll have to report to get paid next year.
Yeah, there's contract language in his where he gets fined and he can only miss up to like 8.
Kind of like Melvin Gordon's situation.
Yeah.
Like he has to come back eventually.
Well, I think in the new CBA they negotiated or whatever. If I'm saying that right, they like could even be like he might have to even report.
Oh yeah,
sooner.
like the contract language.
Yeah, like he like the way because they renegotiated that big contract with the NFL players and all that.
Yeah.
Like he might even have to report sooner. So I might try and see if I could dig up an article like that's like in depth and then make it very simple.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dalvin Cook, if he plays 16, I mean, you know what you can get with him. I think we all were kind of not
If he
touching him.
plays
Yeah,
16.
and I think that's where we discuss is we're probably not all touching him because after hearing the Coochie just lay it out and spread its legs, we were just worried about.
All I could think of.
We're just kind of worried about the injury. It's an injury concern when you're investing a top 5 pick at the running back position. So I think, like we were saying, I mean, me and Tyler were talking off here. I probably won't be taking Cook. It's just too much of a risky situation for me with all the injuries he's had, and then listening to the Cooch.
I keep thinking about the analogy with the golf tee and the rubber around it and the labrum thing.
Yeah.
That's all I think about. I'm like, damn.
And then every time you hit that ball,
That's all you think about?
I'm just like, yeah. I mean, it's a good analogy. That's why I'm not a fucking
You've been golfing
doctor.
a lot.
That's why I'm not a doctor. I was like, that makes sense because if I were golfing, that tee would have been gone after the first shot. Fucking his career is over. But I mean, if you had him in the playoffs like I did, he hurt you mightily.
Yep.
Because
For sure.
from after the week 12 bye, he played a little bit under 45% of the snaps, and he barely was even on the field. And I don't know if you know, but your playoffs start after week 12, so he literally shit the bed for you. He only played in 75% of the snaps 3 times all season, so he's really not, for a guy who got a good amount of targets last year. He's not on the field as much as like your other big time guys. He didn't have a single receiving touchdown last year either, which to me was shocking.
that could regress the other way. He'd get.
Or no, like yeah, I mean
he
he's
can
got
get
to
a couple
one.
because he's going to get their targets.
Yeah,
so.
he's a beast. The only thing, like we said, he finished 5 in standard, 6 in PPR, but he's got a shoulder injury. He's got ankle injury. He's trying to get paid. It just there's too many negative factors that are going into it to where I don't know if I want to take him. I'd rather have someone else that's not having all these issues.
I read something where the amount of times that the balls came off the tee, if the ball comes off one more time, he's done.
He's done.
Yeah,
See?
I think I read something. I read something on it. I don't know if that
It's
guy
a
was
shoulder,
right.
bro.
I don't know if that guy was completely right. I didn't check the source to see if he was an actual doctor or whatever, but that's what I read on online. So if you want to come at me, go at that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
You
for
got
me
a great
personally, like I was all in on Dalvin Cook last year, and if you listen to the podcast at all, I was Dalvin Cook, and boom, it hit. Like you said, he was a top 5, top 6 running back. This year, it just crazy how things change in fantasy football. I am just not drafting Dalvin Cook at all. He's on my personal do not draft list. It's just crazy how 1 year, like I love him, the next year I don't want to deal with it. I mean, he is in a contract year. He's trying to get paid, so he's holding out. He's got the injury concern. Like you said, I think it was the AC joint that he hurt. I personally had that as well. So I understand how, he couldn't really go out there and get hurt because I went through that injury and it was pretty painful. And then on top of that, you have the COVID situation. So now it's not only the contract, it's the injuries and the COVID situation. It's just 3 strikes, you're out for my first round pick because that's where he's going to be going in the first round. I just don't want to risk it. If he plays a full 16 games, yeah. The guy's a stud. Could he be a top 5 running back? 100%. But it's one of those things where I'd rather be wrong and not have him than right and have him, as him busting. So he's slowly moving down my rankings. I'm personally, I know I said it one day we were doing a draft. I'd take him over Josh Jacobs or something like that. But, and I did it in a mock draft. But push comes to shove nowadays. Like, if I'm taking Josh Jacobs over him, I'm taking Miles Sanders over him. Hell, I might even take guys like Kenyon Drake over him, Joe Mixon, Chubb. I'm probably taking all of those guys over him just because I don't want to take the risk, especially in my first round pick, because he's going to go in the first round. I can't imagine a scenario where he slips into the second round. And even if he does, I don't even know if I want to take a shot at him in the second round because, like I just said, 3 strikes, you're out. There's just too many question marks here. There's too many factors. So I'm just all out. I'm all out on Dalvin Cook this year. If he does good for him because I think he's super talented, but I just don't want to risk it.
So I was getting ready for baseball season. I was like, every time Stafford said 3 strikes, you're out. I was like,
Bro, you look like you're about to.
Dude, if I was an umpire, I'd be like the most unpaid umpire. Every strike, I'd be like,
He'd be embarrassed.
Veins all pop out.
He'd be making kids cry.
All the parents would be like, dude, who gave his fucking umpire all these roids, dude?
And then he turns around, he's like, let me get a Red Bull.
All the moms in the stand are like, oh my God, he just called him out.
Come here.
dude, he's barely taller than the catcher.
So what do you guys feel about?
I'm not that short, but I'm back on myself.
Hey, so if that being said, are you guys going to this next guy, Alexander Mattison? Are you just going to swoop him up since we're hating on Dalvin Cook so much?
I think the same way we talked about Pollard. I think if you have Cook, or even if you don't have Cook, I think he's someone you grab and just kind of see. If the rosters are deep, he's someone I'm definitely grabbing. Because I expect rosters to be deeper in some of these leagues, and I'm the asshole who will take your handcuff, and especially if the rosters are deeper. And there's no more. I mean, if it gets to a point where I'm drafting 3 defenses because the rosters are deep, I'm taking the Mattisons, these other guys. But I think he'll go sooner than that, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, what scenario I was talking about, we'll touch on it. We're calling the episode the COVID rules. But one of the scenarios I was talking about, well, obviously with the COVID, like if you get it, you're on a 3-week quarantine pretty much. So you're on IR for 3 weeks. I was talking to someone about it. One of the scenarios would be where, let's say, if you're drafting a running back like a Zeke, a Saquon, a Dalvin Cook, you don't have to draft their handcuff. You're entitled to them automatically. So it's like if I draft Zeke, I get Tony Pollard as my 16th pick no matter what. If I draft Saquon, I get Deion Lewis as my 16th pick. If I draft Dalvin Cook, I get Alexander Mattison as my 16th pick automatically. So that way you don't get snaked because it's like you don't know what's going on with the scenario with the COVID and stuff like that. So that was just a scenario. We'll touch on that when we go over the COVID rules.
I did like that.
Like
That's something you guys probably
So if that is a scenario, I just said I'm all out on Dalvin Cook. But if that was a scenario where my league agreed, like, hey, if you draft Dalvin Cook, you automatically get Alexander Mattison no matter what, then I would potentially take Dalvin Cook higher, because then I know, okay, if he does sit out or if he does get hurt or if he does get COVID, then I have Alexander Mattison. Right. But yeah, if not, then he's definitely a guy I'm going to be taking a shot on because, like I just said, there's 3 different things that could affect Dalvin Cook's playing ability. And what's the best ability? Availability. Yeah. So, yeah.
And if you didn't see the jersey number, you sometimes might think you have Dalvin Cook out there.
Yeah.
So, they look exactly the same. It's bullshit.
Looks kind of like Davante Parker.
What? All right, who do we got next?
We're going to the receivers. We're talking Adam Thielin, the undrafted receiver.
Adam Thielin.
Wisconsin, Whitewater.
He might be a stealing this year.
Stealing.
Yeah.
I like that. Stealing.
I kind of actually like Adam Thielen's upside this year. I know there's the whole narrative, he hasn't played with Diggs, this and that. I actually personally, I don't know how you guys feel about the Vikings, but I think they're a team that's going to I actually predict them to come down as far as wins and losses. I think they're going to struggle a little bit more than they have years prior. That's just my personal opinion. So I think Kirk Cousins throws a little bit more than he has in years past, which I think leads to someone who's going to get the target volume. Whether he has the biggest efficiency with it or not, I think the target volume is going to be relatively safe. So probably a lock for top 10 in targets in the league. Like I said, efficiency with a touchdown upside, you can debate that. But I think he's going to end up being a relatively safe pick as long as he stays healthy because he's been showing some signs of injuries as of late.
Yeah, I mean, I fuck with Adam Thielen. He ranked third in the. I mean, he played 10 games last year. He was third in the NFL in QB rating when he was targeted. Kirk Cousins had I'm big on this stat because that means you're open a good amount. 131.9 QB rating when being targeted. Kirk Cousins didn't throw a single interception last year when he targeted Adam Thielen. So he's getting the separation. 10 games. He was coming off back-to-back top 10 finishes. I want to say in both leagues. He was a high target guy before he got hurt. Diggs is hurt. I think he's going to see 140 targets this year at least. He's a number 1 guy. You do have the double tights. Their number 2 wide receiver now is going to be B.C. Johnson or Justin Jefferson. But BC Johnson last year got out-snapped by both Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr., which I'll talk about in a second for just a second. So, I mean, he's just like the clear-cut number one. And when you're talking fantasy, you want guys that are going to get volume, and he's going to get the volume. I mean, and not only that, when the QB is that comfortable throwing the ball where he doesn't throw a pick and you get hit at a high percentage, I mean, for where he's going, why not? He can finish top 10 easily.
Yeah. I mean, if I knew Adam Thielen was going to score touchdowns, I would take him over DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, shit. 2 years ago, I remember he had,
Six
straight 100 yards.
What Kirk Cousins, his touchdown rate is pretty high. I feel like. What, he had 10 the first year with Cousins. Yeah. I think last year he had 5 or 6, but he only played
10 games.
10 games.
Yeah, well, 2 years ago he had, 6 straight games of 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, so I love Adam Thielen, and like you said,
he's morphed. There's a lot of morphing in this episode.
Yeah, I love Adam Thielen. Back in 2018, the first year with Kirk Cousins, he started off the year 8 straight games with 100 or more yards, finished as the wide receiver 7.
Dude, he was
in 2017, he was wide receiver 8 in PPR, wide receiver 10 in half-point PPR. So still top, a wide receiver 1, and that was with Diggs. 90-plus receptions, 1,250-plus yards, 140 or more targets in those 2 years, 2017 and 2018. Obviously, 2019 is a little outlier because he got hurt, and he tried to come back towards the end of the year, but for that playoff run. But I don't think he was 100% with the hamstring. But just crazy stat, hashtag interesting stat. In 2018, he was the 7th ranked wide receiver on Pro Football Focus. And in 2019, before he got hurt in Week 7, he was the 8th ranked wide receiver. So it's not only the stats that he's putting up there, like Pro Football Focus is saying, hey, this guy is good. He's doing however they graded. I don't know exactly.
And Andre pointed out a lot of those numbers.
Yeah, they graded him out pretty good. So, I mean, I think Thielen is a savage. I think, Diggs hasn't been a high target guy. I think there's only 1 year where he had 150 targets, but that was the year that Thielen had like 150 targets. Diggs is normally like a 90 to 110 kind of target guy. So I think with no Diggs, I think Thielen just eats. And, I mean, the rapport between him and Kirk Cousins is there. I mean, last year, Kirk Cousins had the best passer rating of his career with Stefanski and Gary Kubiak. I know Stefanski's gone, but Gary Kubiak was the offensive advisor. He's pretty much taking over as the offensive coordinator now. So I think the offense stays the same. It's not like, even though Stefanski's gone, the offense is going to stay the same for the most part. So, yeah, I love Adam Thielen. I think top 10 upside. And, he's one of those guys I feel like he's kind of getting slept on where he'll fall to these later rounds. I mean, there's a scenario. So I'm not gonna say third wide receiver, but you draft a running back in the first round, and you get like you come back in the end, back into the second round. You grab a Golladay and a Thielen, like sign me up. Give me a Saquon, a Golladay, and a Thielen to start my draft off. I'm psyched.
Yeah,
dude, that is horny.
Yeah, I've just put I mean, I think why people were kind of lower on him is you look at the wide receiver total targets last year, it was 209. That's a very, very low number. So if you assume 140 targets, he's going to be at a 60% target market share, which would be like impossible. I think that's why some people are low on him because they see the same offense and whatnot. But like I said, I actually see them being a little bit more pass heavy than they were the year before. Yeah. I kind of see that like them throwing to the wide receiver position a little bit more, and I think it's basically him, and we don't know what we have in Justin Jefferson yet. If he struggles, it's going to be a boost for Thielen. And then you have Tajay Sharp there, so it's like it's kind of he's the one, and it's not even really close.
Yeah, I mean Cousins only threw the ball 444 times last year. I think there was an outlier the first couple weeks. Like I think one game he only threw the ball like 10 times.
Yeah,
and another game he only threw him like 12 times or something. It was something stupid like that. I think that was like the lowest pass attempts he's had in his career when he played like a full season.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think he does jump up at least to 500.
That's kind of where I'm pegging him for is 500.
Yeah. So yeah, I do love Adam Thielen. I think he's a savage.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up like the reason I think people are lower on him because they see a potential floor when you just look at that and don't I don't want to say like think a little bit outside the box, but just think of where the team's headed in direction. And like you said, some outlier games, and they're just like, oh, he's going to throw the ball 440 times again, and they're only going to get 200 targets. That's what some people do. Yeah. So that's why I just brought that up.
Yeah, and one thing I was looking at here, and I know like Diggs, and obviously him and Kirk Cousins, or Diggs and the coaching staff, they had some disagreements, and there's some bad blood. So that's probably why they shipped off Diggs, for a first-round pick. But I was looking at the contracts, and Adam Thielen's, I think it was 31. He might be 29. But he's making like $14 million a year. Yeah, he's gonna Diggs is only making $12 million a year. So, and Diggs is only 26. So, you just think it would make sense to keep the younger, cheaper wide receiver instead of the
older,
more expensive wide receiver. But who do they get rid of? They get rid of Diggs. They keep Thielin. So I think, I don't know if they ask Cousins like, hey, which one do you want? Blah blah blah, whatever it may be. But I do think that Thielin and Kirk Cousins, they have the rapport. So yeah, I do love me some Adam Thielin. Stealing, I like that. Stealing with Thielin.
Word. Do you have any more Vikings, or should I go about Irv Smith right now?
No, I have Justin Jefferson here, and then Kyle Rudolph.
Oh.
He's kind of just one of those. He's one of those later round receivers where I'll take a shot on due to potential be the number 2, but
he's a rookie.
He's a rookie. I don't see a high target volume going to the receiver position outside of Thielin, so I don't know how excited I am in this year, but I'm not going to blame you if you take a shot.
Yeah, I think he can get like 80. I think he can get you 80, 90 targets.
Well, yeah, like I just said, Diggs has never been a high target guy. I mean, one year he had 150, but besides that, he's been like between 90 to 110, somewhere in that range. But I mean, Justin Jefferson basically is just a bigger, faster Stephon Diggs. I mean, I'm not going to say in terms of route running, I think Diggs is one of the elite route runners in the entire NFL, but in terms of like speed and size, Justin Jefferson is bigger and faster than Stephon Diggs. And Justin Jefferson isn't a slouch. I mean, granted, he was tied to the most explosive offense in college football history. But 111 receptions, tied most in college, 1,540 yards, third most, and his 18 touchdowns were second most. So, I mean, the guy's talented. You don't just do that in the SEC, if you're not good. And obviously, they're drafting him to be that Diggs replacement. It is tough because I think you're going to have to wait on Justin Jefferson to really get things, with no rookie camp, no preseason games and stuff like that. But I think when push comes to shove, when we get to week 5, 6, 7, as long as everything, football keeps going, I think you'll see Justin Jefferson's snap percentage each and every week increase up and up. So, he's one of those guys you take a late round flyer on, and if he gets dropped for whatever in any leagues, I'm swooping him up and I'm just stashing him.
No, yeah, I agree. He lines up on the inside and the outside, and he does good. He's good at being not the best guy on his team. He wasn't even the best receiver on his team last year. I mean, he had really good numbers, but Jamar Chase was better than him.
For sure.
Is way better than him. So same thing. He's got Thielin there. He should be all right. He's a rookie, so he should be good. Like I said, it's a different year this year with everything going on, but like we said, wide receivers is one of the harder positions to get acclimated to when it comes to the NFL. So be patient, but yeah, he's not someone you're really taking in the first 10 rounds. Dynasty wise, he's a top 10 pick. Depending on your needs, he's definitely a first rounder, and I mean, good luck. He should be good, long term wise. He should be a good play though.
Yeah, it could be a couple years, but he could definitely develop into the one there.
All right, well then we can move over to we got Kyle Rudolph, and then we can talk about your boy.
Yeah, I don't have anything on Rudolph, but I have Irv Smith.
I'm probably avoiding both tight ends personally. I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, the only thing I say Rudolph is it just shows you we've said it and we've preached it multiple times that if you can get 5 to 6 touchdowns as a tight end, it's pretty much going to catapult you into the top 12. So Kyle Rudolph, only 39 receptions, only 367 receiving yards, which isn't shit, but 6 touchdowns, but makes him the tight end 14. So that's just how much the touchdowns are so important for the tight end position. But all 6 of his touchdowns came in games where there was no Adam Thielin. And in the first 6 weeks when there was Adam Thielin, only 9 total receptions for Kyle Rudolph. So, yeah, with the emergence of Irv Smith, I know Andres probably got some good Irv Smith things here. I'm just not touching Kyle Rudolph at all.
Do you think he thought Kyle Rudolph was Adam Thielin?
He could, maybe. I mean,
hey, black guy.
He's dude. Carnal. Yeah.
He's like my primo.
They did sign him to a contract extension, which is weird. Sense. But like I said, maybe he's just one of those guys where he's a good blocker. He's a good football player.
He's a good blocker, and
he can make plays when he's given the opportunity. Yeah. But he's not that guy like a Kelsey or a Kittle.
Yeah.
And he's got a good name. So I mean,
yeah. Kyle Rudolph. Yeah, I mean, his name doesn't begin with a K, so he doesn't have a good tight end name.
Well, we can go on to your boy Irv Smith Jr. Let's hear it.
No, I mean, he was like I said it last episode for the sake I forgot why, but he was the youngest player in the whole draft last year. He's only 21 years old, and as a rookie, he had 36 catches to Rudolph's 39. He had 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, as a rookie for a young player, that's pretty impressive. I mean, 2 touchdowns I'll take. What I thought was crazy was the last 7 games of the season, he actually outsnapped Kyle Rudolph. He had 68.7% snap percentage. Kyle Rudolph had 62.4. So just as the year went on, he progressively started being on the field more. They are going to run the double tight. Like, that's why I was saying they announced him as a starter. I don't know about the threshold for snaps, but that's where I read he had 600 snaps played, which is more than their number 2 receiver last year because Thielin got hurt. So he did play a ton. I think him being on the field only helped him just figure out the game speed. I think he can eat. I think I can see him getting 600 yards and 5 touchdowns next year.
Which would make him a top 12 tight end.
Yeah, and he's only 21 years old. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If he had 2 as a rookie and he's played sparingly, yeah, you also had to watch him play. Like he's an athlete out there. You have it right there, 4'6". He's a big boy and he can block. I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah,
4'6".
He runs a 4.6 40. He's basically like.
You said he's pretty tall, a 4'6", and I was like,
well, yeah,
he's a tight end.
He runs
pretty
a 4'6". So he's 6'2", 240. He ran a 4'6", 40. Sure. He's basically like Evan Ingram. Pretty much the same size, give or take. So
you got over 50 targets.
That's probably a good comparison to Evan Ingram, right? So do you think there's a scenario where, like I said, it is hard, no rookie camp, no preseason games. Justin Jefferson's obviously probably going to be the 2 going forward, but he's still got to learn the playbook and stuff like that. Do you think there's a scenario where Irv Smith could overleap Rudolph and kind of be like that second highest targeted player behind Thielin?
I wouldn't be surprised that's why I looked at the snap percentage. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Because Rudolph will be there for run plays, but what you want to look at is like route percentage of routes run. I'm willing to bet he runs more routes next year. His route percentage will be higher than Kyle Rudolph's.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Irv Smith could be the second highest targeted player on the team.
And they took him with a high draft capital. It wasn't like they took him 5th, 6th round. I mean, they got him. He was a good talent. So I just don't know why they re-signed Rudolph, but we'll see. He's also someone you're not drafting.
He pulls a really good sled.
Yeah, he's probably nice, but he's good. I mean, they like him a lot. If you do some homework and read up on some stats, you'll see they like him a lot over there. So
he's good on the sled drill.
Well, they're gonna spread him out and do like
pulls
an
that
inline,
sled across from the 40 to the 20 in 2 seconds.
Do a good inline between like seam routes because he's athletic, like you said, like a Evan Ingram. So don't be surprised.
All right, what we got?
Don't be surprised.
What about
baby?
Vikings defense?
They suck. They lost their top 4 corners. 3 of their 4 corners are gone. They're all boo-boo.
Yeah.
Streamer?
Yeah.
I wouldn't streamer.
Don't worry, guys. I'm going to look into defensive.
You got Mr. Miyagi stream of the week.
Yeah, you can
I
do
bet you his
that.
number 1 defense would be
defense.
Steelers.
Now you see him?
Well,
now you don't.
But honestly, though, maybe.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
All right, we're moving on to the last team. We got the Chicago
Mitch
Idiots.
Trubisky next. Number 2 pick in the draft 2 years ago. Bum.
Mitch.
Yeah, not drafting Trubisky.
Bitch
Or
Trubisky.
Foles, so let's just move on.
There's nothing to say about him.
Sure?
I mean, what do you want to say?
I put a whole template in here. We're going to just go right
The
past
only
him.
thing I can say is this:
How do you-
Trubisky finishes the QB 25 last year, and I think the thing that helped Trubisky was, we touched on it earlier. It was the rushing yards. For some of these quarterbacks, they rush, but last year only 193 rushing yards. That was the lowest in his 3-year career so far. He only had 5 games with 250 or more passing yards. There's probably a scenario where they bring in Nick Foles at some point. I say it all the time. I think people forget that Nick Foles played with Matt Nagy on the Chiefs for a brief stint. So we could see a scenario where Foles takes over week 5, week 6, week 7 in a sense, and he could be the guy going forward.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Agree.
All right, let's
What
move
we
on
got
to
next?
the running back situation. We got the David Montgomery. I actually clipped a part of a previous podcast where we said David Montgomery is going to be a bounce back this year. But how do you guys feel as we watch him run down the field? No, that wasn't. That's defensive play.
I think last year was his floor. I wrote here, wasn't used properly and god-awful play calling and inconsistent quarterback. Didn't help him. I went to look. So his career game, he had 27 carries, 135 yards, and a touchdown. Best game he ever had. The next game, they give him the ball 14 times. They didn't do a good job of just giving him the ball, and his yards per carry that game weren't bad either. Went back to look. He was 13th in the NFL. Actually, he's 13th in 3 things. You'll think this is funny. 13th in carries. He was 13th in broken tackles, and he was 13th in juke rate. So he was breaking tackles, juking people, and getting the ball. 13th best. So
I should take him 13th this year.
So RB1 wise,
he can get there. I think that's in the realm of possibilities.
Well, he's being drafted. Last year might mean to cut you guys off, but he's being drafted. Last year he finished RB24 in PPR, RB25. in half-point PPR, he's being drafted in like the 4th, 5th round, but he's being drafted outside of the top 20 running backs. But you're saying he's 13th in this, 13th in that, 13th in this. So
that's what he's juking people and he's breaking tackles because, like you said, he was the only player in college to break a certain amount of tackles, and he did it twice. So he jukes you and he breaks tackles. Yeah. And he has 11. He had 11 goal line carries, which was 8th in the NFL, and he had 35 red zone touches, which was 19th in the NFL. So he got the opportunity, but the Bears, if you just watch them play, their play calling is horrible. Like, they're awful, which is weird because Nagy's was good with the Chiefs, but they just didn't do it was just bad. I mean, you could tell they sucked.
Maybe I don't think the play calling could get worse.
They were bad.
Some Andy Reid and not all Nagy. Maybe it was a little Andy Reid and.
Well, he needs to figure it out. They were really bad. They were really boring to watch. Like, I was like, God damn, dude, no wonder they suck.
Yeah, so. I mean, he's just he's a volume guy. He's gonna get the volume. I mean, I don't know if they. I didn't really dig deep to see if there's like an undrafted free agent, or they didn't draft a running back, I believe, right?
They have Artavis Pierce.
No,
he's kind of a big boy, isn't he? Right?
He's a.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's
no scenario where he doesn't get
at least 220.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna give him a chance.
He had 267 total touches last year. That was the 12th most. Yeah. And like I said, they have Tarik Cohen, but there's no way where I think they had Mike Davis last year at some point, and then they ended up cutting him.
Yeah,
but there's not a scenario where I can't see him getting another 250 plus touches. And like I said, that's the 12th most. Andre just said 13th most, 13th this. You know what I'm saying? Top 10 in this. And it's like, here's a guy who's getting drafted outside of the top 20 running backs overall. I'm not saying he's going to be this superstar stud, but top 20 running back, I think 100%. I think he's like a middle tier RB2, but he's getting drafted like an RB3 or like a flex guy.
Best ability.
Availability.
Yeah.
He's volume safe. I mean, I personally don't like the upside too much. I think the way he gets to the top 13 is just because of the touchdowns. If he can get into the end zone a little more, he only had 6 touchdowns last year. I think he could fall into the end zone a little more. I mean, only 2 runs of over 20 yards last year. That's pretty bad.
He's never been, like, if you watch the tape in college, he's not like a breakaway guy. But
I mean,
he'll break some tackles and make a play, but he's not a breakaway kind of guy. One thing I did like though was that 6 touchdowns, like you said, but Tarik Cohen 0 touchdowns on the ground. So it wasn't like they were giving Tarik Cohen the ball to get in there.
They just weren't scoring.
It was when they got in close, they were giving the ball to David Montgomery.
He did struggle too, so that's why I was saying I haven't looked yet, but I don't know if they have someone that could potentially come in and take a couple goal line away carries from him, which would hurt his overall fantasy value, because he's not going to be a consistent 100-yard runner. He's going to be more in the 60-50 with a few receptions. So that's why I was trying to like I said, I don't know if there's someone who could potentially take that away.
That's going to be that dude.
Artavis Pierce, and I mean that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, early season, if you have Montgomery and you're seeing them putting him in the 10-yard line, he might be someone worth shit. He's got a lot of work, but maybe I'm a little worried about his long-term touchdown upside.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was their O-line, or it could be their O-line and their play calling. I mean, I wrote he had 3.7 yards per carry, which is fucking horrible. But, I mean, McCaffrey had a right around the same as a rookie.
I mean, he was like 4.4 in college, too, which is pretty bad. Yeah. He's never been a big yards per carry guy.
Yeah, just 3.7 is just – I want to say the NFL average, I think I saw today was like 4.3 something. So he's fairly
And I mean, I'm
below.
okay with the lower yards per carry, but it's when you don't really break many big runs. I mean, he has a lot of games where his long is like 7 yards. On 21 carries, 11 carries, 6 yards. I mean, that's just.
It's just
it's not sexy.
Bad.
It's not sexy.
Yeah, they're bad. Like I said, watching the Bears, it was just terrible. I was like, oh, here comes a run. Like, oh, here comes a run. It's like, switch it up, do something. Like granted, they don't have many athletes either, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have very many options.
But very volume safe.
Trubisky.
Yeah, he's like a prototypical RB2. Like, you look that up in the dictionary, it should be him. Like, he shouldn't win you games, but he should get you like 10 points a game, 11 points, and he falls into that.
Usable piece.
I think that he's going to be drafted pretty late compared to what he did last year. People are gonna be like, oh, he didn't do shit, whatever. So I think he falls to the 5th, 6th, 7th round potentially in some drafts. But like I said, here's a guy where I think he finishes at least a top 20 running back in terms of carries and stats and just overall top 20 running back. But you're getting him so late. So it's like if you go wide receiver heavy, or maybe you go Mahomes, Lamar Jackson early, and then you grab a Kittle or a Ertz in these later rounds, and you're like, oh, I need a running back now in these later rounds. I think he's one of these later round running backs that you can grab. Like I said, if he's going to get me it's rare to find a guy in the 5th round or later who's going to get you 250 plus touches, you know. And like I said, if he could just really convert some of those touchdowns, if he can get you 10 touchdowns, you know, through the air and on the ground combined, I think he's going to give you a top 20 overall finish.
Sure. Yeah, if he gets 10,
and you'll be happy with that as your wide receiver too. I mean, your running back too. My bad.
I'm hoping he has like a Melvin Gordon type of bounce back, where, you know, Melvin didn't have a single touchdown, and then that second year he finally, you know, kind of found his stride.
So crazy, Melvin Gordon had no touchdowns.
Remember his mom. His mom refused to wear a jersey until he scored a touchdown. So she literally didn't wear a jersey.
Really?
All year.
That's funny.
It's crazy. He didn't score a single touchdown.
That's like
even the first game, she just was like, "I'm not wearing
that's
until
my
you
baby.
score."
That's my baby.
The very first game, Mom, I'm gonna fucking score. Like week 3, he's like, "Mom, you fucking jinxed me."
It's wild that he didn't. I had him that year too, and I took him the next year too on accident.
All right,
It's funny because like he went so low because he didn't score a touchdown. It's like you knew positive regression was coming.
Yeah,
So
dude.
It's like
There's no way you can't go back to
regression.
It's like dirty soap.
That's
It's like dirty soap.
is that a word?
Progression.
Progression. Positive.
I had that yesterday. I put negative regression.
You know
I was like,
what?
oxymoron.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
It's just really funny.
I say a lot of words. Sometimes words get messed up.
You make up. It's like Ricky-isms. Have you ever watched Trailer Park Boys?
Oh, Ricky. Of course I have.
It's like the Lugar.
There's a character in this show called Trailer Park Boys, and one of the characters, just every like common phrase and whatever, he just fucks them up. They're hella funny.
Is his name Mike? Oh.
All right, what we got next?
Let's move on to Tarik Cohen real quick. I know you guys touched on him a little bit.
I ain't touching on him at all. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, are you going to touch? We touched on him a little bit, but are you going to touch on him in your fantasy team?
Who's taller, me or Tarik Cohen?
You.
Hell yeah.
Tarik Cohen's like 5'2".
That's all I gotta say. I'm out. I'm out, boys.
He's a beast.
He's short. He's
the
really
one that
short.
had that video of him doing the backflip and catching both of the balls.
Yeah.
That shit was ridiculous. Anyway, go ahead, T.
So he's more of like a PPR guy. RB 27 in PPR. RB 37.5 point PPR. So I can only imagine what he is in standard, even
50.
lower than that.
Wait, how tall are you, Anthony?
He's 5'6", and he's definitely not 5'6". If he's 5'6" on paper, he's like 5'5".
Yeah, he's like 5'5".
Yeah, he's probably. I think he's like 4'11" maybe.
If I get a lot of sleep, I'm like 5'7.5".
You're like Bugsy or Muggsy.
But I do wake up 6:45, so normally I'm like 5'6.5".
Shoes off.
But no, one thing I can say about Tarik Cohen,
Whatever,
he's
I
more
guess.
of a PPR guy, more of a PPR flex kind of guy. Or if, maybe you stack across your receivers, you know what I'm saying? You're just looking for like that second running back who you can maybe plug and play. But 50-plus receptions in all 3 years, 70 or more in the last 2 years, and he's had 140 or more touches all 3 years. So, I mean, just a guy who, but it's mainly PPR, I feel like. Outside of PPR, I'm not drafting him. Half-point PPR standard, I'm not touching him. Like I said, he had 0 rushing touchdowns compared to David Montgomery's 6. That's all I got to say on Tarik Cohen.
They need to just use him like they did 2 years ago and just be better at calling plays.
I think, like you said though, PPR, there's some value for him there. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You had him in PPR, right, Mike?
Yeah, and it was like one of those things where play the matchups. If pass catching running backs were exploiting a defense, so you throw him in, and I mean he would fuck, dude.
I mean, he had over 100 targets last year.
I mean, 5.8 yards per reception. That's bad. There's no way he's that low again. I mean, if he gets to, his career average 7.68, I mean, he's going to be closer to 600 yards total. Like you said, that's a usable piece, and it'd be more productive than he was last year. Yeah.
Especially if you're in like multiple flex league. I know like we're in a double flex league, or I know someone there's Dre's in a dynasty league. There's 4 flex. So if you're like in a multiple flex league or a super flex type of league or whatever it may be, he's a guy where you could throw in there. They flexing over with the gun show. That's more of what he is right there. Single flex league.
Double flex.
All
It's
right,
an hour and a half. Getting weird.
we can move on to the next one. Let's talk about some receivers here. We're talking. Before we started recording, Tyler was telling me how much he wants to go DM Allen Robinson and meet up with him off of Backpage.
I thought you hated Allen Robinson.
Isn't he the third?
I know. See, so here's the thing. I was talking about Dalvin Cook, how much last year I loved him, and this year I just hate him. Last year I'm the Allen Robinson hater on the podcast, but last year he showed me what's up. Now I'm all in on Allen Robinson. But it's kind of crazy. I was just thinking about it right now. This division could potentially have 4 top 15 wide receivers. You have Allen Robinson, Thielin, Kenny Golladay, and Thielin. Those guys right there potentially could all be top 15. So, but I do like Allen Robinson this year. I mean, wide receiver 8 in PPR, wide receiver 11.5 point PPR, 154 targets last year. That was the third most. I mean, you can't. I'm all about numbers. I always say all the time, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. And the numbers are there. And just kind of a crazy hashtag interesting stat I saw right here. He was actually named to the Big Ten's all-decade team. So, I mean, that's – you got to think about all the receivers in the Big Ten over the last 10 years. Yeah, he was one of the 3 wide receivers that they selected to be on the all-Big Ten decade team. It means you got to be pretty good.
Yeah. He good.
I mean, you don't get 1,500 yards.
I mean, the other guys were DJ Moore, which I know Anthony's pretty high on. And the other guy was, surprisingly – Tyler Johnson.
Let's go.
Rookie. So that's a name to keep an eye on. Tyler Johnson.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it comes down to the targets with Allen Robinson. I mean, even if Anthony Miller does emerge and kind of become that solid too, which is he has potential to do that. He does take away a little target share. I still think Allen Robinson is due for worst case scenario 120. I mean, that's probably worst case scenario.
Yeah, I'd say at least 130.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm thinking like the tight end comes out and I said I'm trying to picture a scenario, or maybe Gabriel gets a little bit more involved as well too. So I mean, a safe bet for a solid 130 to 140 on the target volume. I don't need to say anything else. Tyler said it.
No.
You meant Taylor. You meant Anthony Miller, right?
Yeah, well, Taylor Gabriel's still there, I believe, right?
No, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah,
I thought he was still there.
No, he's gone.
100%.
100%.
200%.
700%. Yeah, they have
make it 1,000. I believe you.
Have 1,000. Yeah, they got Ted Ginn there. Yeah, they got Ted Ginn and Darnell Mooney. I mean,
that's who it was. Ginn. I knew it was something with G.
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah, I didn't ask my calculator. That's why.
I don't know how he's still in the league, but.
Hey, we give Ginn a lot of shit.
Dude, he's had a career.
Inside story on Ginn. So me and Anthony were Dolphins fans. Our whole family's Dolphins
still
fans. So we needed a quarterback really bad. This is the year Brady Quinn. I don't know if he won the Heisman or he was like Heisman for Notre Dame. So he falls to us, and we're just thinking like, we're gonna get Brady Quinn. I'm pretty hyped. I'm thinking like, I just take him. We have no fucking quarterback. We had like Jay Fiedler and fucking. I don't even know. Damon Heward and shit.
Ray Lucas probably.
Cleo Lemon.
Yeah, Cleo Lemon. Yeah, we've had the worst quarterbacks.
Jesus Christ.
So Damon, what is it? I forgot his name already. The quarterback. What was his name?
Jay Fiedler?
Brady Quinn.
Oh,
Brady Quinn. So Brady Quinn's fallen. We're like, we're going to get Brady Quinn. We're going to get Brady Quinn. Ted Ginn Jr. And I remember just like, who the fuck is Ted Ginn Jr.?
They're like the guy in the national championship.
They were like, who the fuck is that?
They're like, all team punt returner. We're like, we drafted a fucking punt returner
with the 9th pick, and it's just like we call each other Ginn. We joke around all the time. We say, "Go Ginn." We joke around, but for as much shit as we give Ginn, he's been in the league for 14 years, and that's pretty fucking hard to do.
And low-key, he was better than Brady Quinn ever was.
Yeah.
And he was actually the number 2. We looked up all the receivers. He was the second because it was Calvin Johnson.
He out-careered Calvin Johnson, though.
Yeah, he actually out-careered him, and he was the second most productive receiver in that draft class.
And that whole drive, yeah.
Low-key tells you, dude.
So
they did.
So what you're saying is the Dolphins are the best at drafting?
Yeah.
No.
That year, they were dead on.
No, it's crazy. I've never seen a guy catch 10 touchdowns and drop 8 touchdowns in a season, but I watched Ted Ginn do it before on the Panthers.
He could have led the league in touchdowns that year.
I was like, how did he drop that ball? He burned that guy. Just fucking like right there, drop.
No. But it wouldn't even be like drop, like a doink.
It was like a basket catch because he's so open. He's like.
It's so bad that like if we go play football together and like if you drop a wide open pass, they'll be like, oh, you ginned it, bro.
Yeah, he reminds me of that little black kid from the Little Giants where he had to put the sticky stuff. What? I forgot his name. Where he puts the sticky stuff.
I don't know.
Whatever.
You're the one who brings the little boys, okay?
Yeah. Dude. His name was something Jet. Anyway. Allen Robinson. Just one stat. 7 games of more than 10 targets and only 1 game of under 6, and it was 5 targets. I mean, I like guys that get
targets,
get pegged with targets, and his lowest snap percentage last year was 88% all year. So he's on the field an extremely amount of the time, extreme amount of percentage, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. When we're the number 1 podcast in the world, people are gonna come up to me and be like, "Oh, dude, it's the pegging guy."
Peg. Every time he says peg, I'm gonna hit A-Mac. Peg me with some stats now.
No, yeah, it's just some more numbers on Allen Robinson. Why I do like him. His 27% target share was the 4th most in the NFL. Obviously, 154 targets is a lot. But like Anthony said, if even that drops to like 120, 130, he's still going to see, 22+% of the targets, which is serviceable. I mean, you're not really drafting him to be your 1. You're most likely drafting him to be your 2.
Yeah.
He's going in like the 3rd or 4th round in drafts. So, I mean, yeah, to get a guy who's going to be your second wide receiver but has wide receiver 1 upside, as much as I'm, like you said, I am the biggest Allen Robinson, hater. But, just to have that upside, 21 contested catches, that was the second most in the entire NFL. So, yeah, he's good. I think that guy's just suffered from
terrible quarterbacks.
Terrible.
Blake Bortles, Trubisky. He's on a contract year. I'm surprised to see what he could do this year and if he's willing to stay with the Bears or if he's trying to go somewhere else. I mean, imagine a scenario where, if he was to go and be the 2 in the Packers,
Can I give you a dream scenario for him?
Yeah.
He should go to the Eagles.
Eagles.
Still talking about
Yeah, good one right there. You know what I'm saying? If he was to go to a capable
him and Carson
quarterback
Wentz,
to throw him the ball,
goodness.
I would really like to see what he could do if he was on a good team with a good quarterback.
For sure. Agreed.
What we got next, Mike?
All right, we got one of the first guys we made a video on was Anthony Miller. We made a video on him during his rookie year. What do you guys think with Big Dick Nick and Mitch Trubisky still throwing the rock? What do you guys in, or is it too far down? How do you guys feel?
I mean, he had a shoulder injury, surgery, so we might have to ask Dr. Cucci on his surgery as well. He's expected to be ready for week 1, but we'll see what he says. But I he's one of those guys who could potentially push 90 to 100 targets, so he definitely has some late round appeal. But I kind of want to get the Cucci's opinion on this to kind of see. Sure. How hot and juicy I get on it.
Yeah, no, he showed flashes as a rookie. He only had 30-some catches, 33, 34, but he had 6 touchdowns. And when you watch, you could tell he had no problem getting open. He's a good route runner. He can get separation, at the beginning of his routes when you're trying to, he can break the press well. So that's how he's able to get open. Last year he did all right. And then I know T's got more stats. They kind of coincide. He found his stride weeks 11 through 15. He accumulated 63% of his total yards in those 5 weeks, and he had 431 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, that's at the end of the season, that's what you want to see. You want to see guys end on a higher note. And, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, that's got to be – T will tell you the numbers, but that's got to be top 20, top 15 for a guy, second year with bad quarterback play. I think you could throw a flyer. I mean, he's 10th round, 11th round, maybe later.
Probably later than that, actually, yeah.
If he can go back and get you 7 touchdowns, but with more catches, I mean, he should be maybe a bye week fill-in.
Yeah.
AKA maybe wide receiver 3, 2 flex, whatever kind of league you're in.
I mean, if he's a 90 to 110 target wide receiver, 10's probably best case scenario. Maybe Allen Robinson misses a game because of a rib injury. But it's. I mean, if you get someone who's going to get 90 to 110 targets, let's just say somewhere in that range, that's a usable piece as a wide receiver. So especially in games where they're playing maybe the Lions and it could be a shootout and there's no good DBs there, that's a guy you could throw out there. Or maybe Allen Robinson does have a tough corner and it's they're playing a defense that's kind of crappy and it's okay, maybe this is an Anthony Miller week because Robinson has a shutdown corner this week. We know he's the legit 2 at this point, and this should be a game where the Bears have to, throw the ball a lot.
That's why you listen to us, though, because we'll tell you that. Yeah. We'll tell you, hey, this is the week to start him.
And he can line up in the slot, too, so he can do it all for a young guy. Yeah. Nice catch.
Let me stat correct you so people don't yell at you on YouTube and Instagram.
People love yelling at Drake.
So I think you said he had 35 catches. He had 52 receptions.
No, I didn't say catches. I just said he had 431 yards and 2 touchdowns.
No, you said Anthony Miller had 33 receptions as a rookie year.
Oh, okay.
As a rookie.
Oh, as a rookie. Okay. I'm saying. Well, this year, 52 receptions, only 2 touchdowns. So the touchdowns came back down. I think if we can boost those touchdowns back up to that 5-6 area, that threshold area. I mean, a talented guy, 85 targets last year. Like Anthony said, if he can get between you 80 to 100 targets, give or take, I think he's a good wide receiver 3. Like you said, there's a lot of these 3 wide receiver leagues, or even a flex guy. Maybe you could throw him in there on any given week. But yeah, those numbers that Dre said where he kind of really boomed. He was wide receiver 8 in PPR weeks 11 through 15, and wide receiver 9.5 point PPR. So kind of boomed, towards the end of the year. So you kind of saw the potential that he has and the reason why the Bears took him. I mean, he's pretty much locked and loaded as the number 2 on that offense. Obviously, you have Ginn. We talked about it, but he's more of the burner, the field stretcher. If anything, that'll just open up more of the middle of the field for Anthony Miller, as that slot guy potentially.
Yeah, so it was 33 catches, 7 touchdowns. I think I said 34-6. So yeah, that you can't replicate that though. That's a touchdown every 4.5 catches.
What is he injury prone though? Because I know his rookie year he battled injuries the whole time, and then last year I think he played a full 16 last year, but he had a shoulder surgery.
Yeah. Well, he plays in the cold too, so I mean that probably doesn't help him. But
Yeah, because that
He's being
golf
more of a
ball is
bear.
like super cold, and then the rubber can't stay on the gasket.
And then if that gets loose, your hamstring tears.
Yeah. All right, so we got one more guy on the Bears we want to
We
talk
do?
about. We got Jimmy Graham, tight end. I don't know if you guys want to talk on him. We threw him up there, but
All right.
I think Jimmy Graham's best days are behind him.
All
don't know
I
how
would
you
say is
guys
that
feel.
I do know one stat that Nick Foles targets the tight end more than any quarterback in I think NFL history. Maybe not NFL history, but it's like at least the active quarterbacks. So if Nick Foles is a starter, maybe there's a shot. But that's all I got to say.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not saying anything else.
Jimmy Graham's a guy that might get drafted just because of the namesake, but I don't think that he'll be. I think he'll be on the waiver wire within like the first couple of weeks. So I think you can easily just go and grab Jimmy Graham there if you got a juicy matchup, or if Nick Foles starting, you want to take that hunch. I don't think you need to draft him. That's just my opinion.
I think you give the perfect analysis. I don't need to say anything else after that.
I got some good Jimmy Graham stats. In 2000, you guys ready? I have a really good Jimmy Graham stat. Ready? It's just one. Ready?
Let's do
Ready? You guys, it's gonna blow your mind when I tell you this stat. It's amazing. In 2013, he had 86 catches for 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns. That's all. I was just kidding. He sucks. I'm just looking at how good he used to be, and I'm like, dude, look at that. I was like, he was so
Yeah, he did tell his patella tendon. That injury is pretty hard to come back from. I mean, you see guys like Victor Cruz, how good they were. He tore his patella tendon. His career was pretty much
Tyler,
over after that. So
when I think of a patella tendon injury, do you remember when we went hiking?
Yeah.
That's always what I think about.
for sure, 100%.
Dude, we had that homie knee slide over to the side of his leg.
God.
It was crazy.
Yeah, in the
He
middle
had
of
to
this hike, there's like no way in and out.
And it was like 80-mile-per-hour winds that day, so they couldn't airlift him out. They had to like come down and hike him down the rest of the way down to the river, and then take him on a boat all the way up the river to an ambulance, and then take him to the hospital.
probably the worst day of that guy's life.
And dude, remember he kept saying, he's like, yeah, but I got to work tomorrow. I'm not gonna be able to work. His knee was literally on the side of his leg.
His kneecap, yeah.
We're like, dude, you're not gonna work. Like we just were trying to like tell him without telling him.
I'd be
Just,
more worried about
just call out, dude. Just call out. Just tell him to call out tomorrow.
ever again.
And that's all he was worried about.
Pretty gnarly, dude.
All he was worried about was working, and like me and
Is he
Tyler.
Mexican
were
or
like,
something?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
he actually was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why. If I gotta make it to work tomorrow, it's like, chill, Mexican, you're good.
Like I was like, no, bro, you're not.
Well, he was like a friend of a friend too, so it was like a big group of us, so we didn't really know him that well. But it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Shout out to Jimmy Graham for being a good NFL
So,
player. But,
patella tendon.
Bears defense.
I think the Bears defense is one of the defenses you can draft. Obviously,
Yeah.
I think they got drafted a little higher last year compared because of the previous year or whatever. They
Khalil
were
Mack.
so
savage.
savage, but I still think they're one of the better defenses out there. So.
For sure.
Yeah.
You got to
They're-
defend when you can't score points.
Hey, is our league, did we get rid of defenses or kickers?
Kickers.
Oh, God damn
All
it.
right.
All right, that's all we got for this episode, boys and girls. Thank you for listening. Throw that fucking outro music on.
Do it, T. Push I.
Yeah, press the letter I.
Doesn't work.
It's frozen.
Ah,
Oh
dude.
my God,
Oh,
dude.
Dude, we pay you all
What'd
this
you
money
do?
and you can't even get it together.
Dude, this is absurd.
You guys don't pay me anything.
Yo, it's like, yo,
And I
it's
literally
And this is why. And this is why.
exactly.
Whoa, chill. Backspace.
Backspace.
Okay, there we go. All right. Now that we got the outro music playing, thank you for listening. This has been the AVG Fantasy Football Podcast. I got the episode wrong the last one. I think I said episode 30. It's episode 29, but I got it right this time. It's episode 30. That was the NFC North
boy.
Division Breakdown. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. I enjoyed having you here.
Could have been anywhere in the world.
Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're listening to us. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. If you got any type of information that helped you out on your fantasy football league at all, go ahead and do these things for us. Leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app if you haven't already. It really helps us out in the podcast world, boosts us up, gives us suggests us to new people a bunch more, and we appreciate it. I think that's all I got. Yeah. Stay tuned. We're doing more division breakdowns soon. We're going to knock a bunch of these out. Just get them all out to you guys so you can get a better analysis of what happened in the offseason. So that is it. Thank you for listening. We are out. Episode 30 is a wrap, baby.